this started. Let's actually start with roll call today.
Councilmember Soria.
Here.
Councilmember Carbrasi.
Here.
Councilmember Arias.
Presente.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Present.
Councilmember Bredefeld. Council Vice President Esparza.
Present.
And Council President Chavez.
Here. All right. For the benefit of the public, this is a continuation of the budget hearings that we started on June 14th. It is Tuesday, June 22nd, 9:06. With that, City Attorney, I want you to read something in for the record just so that folks understand what exactly we'll be dealing with today. So if you could just identify what the definition of the balance of a balanced budget is.
Yes, under the charter that was amended a few years ago, the council must adopt by June 30 a balanced budget. Balanced means that the sum of all of the appropriations cannot exceed the sum of the anticipated revenue.
All right, and so just so the public understands, the City of Fresno is slated to receive over $170 million from our ARP in two payments, half of it this year, half of it next year. We have a $20+ million general fund, better projections, I guess is the best way to prove it. And then we're also doing the mid-year budget adjustment that we postponed for this period, along with our Measure P funds and various other funding sources. I just wanted to make sure that folks understood what we're working with here, and they were clear on that. I have a couple of clarifying motions that the city clerk gave me, but before we do that, I want to read into the record and make a motion to replace and consolidate council infrastructure motions with the following single motion. We want to submit an attachment of the Rebuild Fresno program with regards to infrastructure items, for example, streets, sidewalks, parks, to be funded with legally available funds utilizing ARPA, Measure P, other grants, and general fund if necessary. And I understand what the administration's position is, that if we utilize general fund, we will have to make some adjustments. We want to give you the flexibility of doing that, but if you do not desire to, the council can go in and do that as well. With that, let me actually have my colleague, Councilmember Arias, go first. I know he had a couple of clarifications.
I'll just second your motion with the amendment that the motion includes specifically all the numbered motions that included the rebuild and infrastructure projects in each neighborhood. For the record, this motion includes for District 1, Motion 84, District 2, Motion 49, District 3, Motion 53, District 4, Motion 61, District 5, Motion 60, District 6, Motion 56, and District 7, Motion 52. And for the record, we have submitted updated projects to our respective motions. So those have been provided to the city clerk for the record.
All right, motion was made and seconded it, and
Council President?
yes.
I'd like
Council,
to
sorry.
add a clarification. So my motion 84 has changed quite a bit because there were some things that didn't need to be on there. But my motion will include a consolidation of 58, 59, 14, and 16, because at the beginning I was doing individual motions on infrastructure. So if we're going to go that route, I'd like to include these individual infrastructure motions into that greater
Agreed
motion.
upon.
Duly noted. So, City Clerk, did you receive that for the record?
No, I'm sorry.
Can
I'm
you
trying to
repeat
figure
that?
out
Can you
why you
repeat that,
can't.
Councilwoman Soria? So make sure we get that memorialized in the motion.
I'll have my staff submit it, but it's 58, 59, 14, and 16.
So,
All right.
Council President, so to be clear, all of the identified motions will be deemed withdrawn and replaced with this motion that you just identified.
That's correct. Correct. All right, do we have any other clarifying motions, Vice President?
Yes. So what I'd like to add one cost-neutral motion to the hopper. Within the parking division, I'd like to allocate 1/4 of an FTE dedicated to parking enforcement in parking district number 10, which is our VA neighborhood. Get a second?
Second.
Additionally, I'd like to amend motion number 42. The motion number 42 originally was simply a more of a direction, if you will. So what I'd like to do is turn that direction into an actual motion of a program to have the two-person crew in District 7 to be a pilot program. Proactively cleans up litter and illegal dumping throughout the council district, and also responds to resident requests for litter, illegal dumping, etc., including the required equipment for these personnel. These personnel, as noted by the city attorney, retain the ability to cite and hold properties accountable within the Department of Public Utilities. So what I'd like to do there is have that funded out of the DPU, Department of Public Utilities, and it will, part of that funding will come from the reallocation of $267,100 set aside for the convenience center, but that will instead go toward this pilot litter program in District 7.
Okay.
Get a second on that?
Second? Any other, Councilmember Maxwell?
This is the appropriate time to make any additional motions, Council President?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would like to make a couple in that case. To make a motion to appropriate $500,000 for the acquisition of El Dorado Park. Thank you. Like to make a motion to reallocate the $1 million set aside for Large Park towards the design and construction of a Class 4 bike lane on Barstow Avenue between Blackstone and Jackson.
I'll second that.
Like to make a motion to allocate $400,000 towards a climate action plan and to apply for any available outside funding for the review and implementation of that plan.
Second?
Got one or two more, Council President. This might be unnecessary, but motion to appropriate $750,000 from ERAP funding towards the eviction protection program. Would my co-sponsor of that bill like to second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. One more, Council President, just a second. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's $100,000 allocated for misters at El Dorado Park. So I'd like to make a motion to reallocate the $100,000 for misters at El Dorado Park towards the acquisition of the El Dorado Park.
Second.
Motion I made earlier. Thank you.
All right.
One last motion, Council President. Motion to appropriate the necessary funds to satisfy the Granite Park deal.
Second.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Corbasi?
I didn't catch the last one. What was that? What was the last motion?
Motion to appropriate the necessary funds to satisfy the Granite Park deal.
How much is that going to be? Do we know yet what the dollar amount is?
Condition upon council approving it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Corbasi, do you have any clarifying motions?
Yep. On my motion 49, just an update. If we can remove item number 9. 49. It's just the one for my district priorities. Okay. If we can remove item number 9 and then replace that with $24,000 for sidewalk projects in the district. And then I'd like to make another motion for $100,000 for a partnership with the Central, Southeast, and Southwest and Northwest Police Districts for, it's a rebate program for security doorbell cameras for neighborhoods south of Shaw.
Second that.
Thank you.
All right. Does that conclude any other clarifying motions? Councilmember Maxwell?
This is also the appropriate time to withdraw.
Yep.
Motion's okay.
Let's do that now.
I would like to withdraw motion number 6, motion to get an estimate for additional cost of tree replacement, planting, tree removal, and irrigation of trees. I would like to withdraw motion number 29, motion to reconsider structure of the master fee schedule. I would like to amend motion number 70. That was a motion for $200,000 to go towards the rehabilitation of the vacant property known as the Old Rustler Winery from $200,000 to $500,000. And I would like to withdraw motion number 95, which was to reallocate the money set aside for the D4 Convenience Center.
That was motion number 95?
That's correct. I withdraw motion number 95.
Oh, 93.
Okay, it may be misidentified on my sheet.
It was originally 93. I believe the latest version has it down as 95
The latest version we received,
I gave you a.
this morning or last night.
Mine's at 93. Could you read the actual motion just to make sure we're certain which one we're talking about? Is it to reallocate 267 set aside?
That's
for
correct,
D4?
Council President.
All right. City Clerk, please make that note.
Noted.
All right. Any additional clarifying motions, withdrawals?
I do have
Personal?
clarifying motions, but should I do it at the time that we take them up to vote? Or, because I have a number of them that I just need to clarify.
Yeah, let's do that now.
Okay, perfect.
We'll give them
So, motion 1, I just want to make sure that the motion reflects the amount, which is 2.8 million. Motion 19, I want to amend this motion to provide funding to the Arts Council to implement the mural parks project. Motion 22, which was to establish and fund a park ranger program. So I'm amending to provide direction to come back in 30 days with a plan on how to, and how we're going to establish this program, covered through Measure P.
Okay.
Motion 40, which was the incentive program for police officers. I wanted to amend to include up to $20,000 for police officers that move or that buy homes in the south area of the city. And it would be funded from salary savings. Motion 43, this one was the neighborhood beautification program in the Tower District and also in Chinatown. Amend to set the hiring criteria to include homeless individuals within the program, funding at $250,000.
Okay. Number 45 is amending, this was the trolleys between downtown and Tower, to fund for purchase from the fax ARP budget. Right.
Number 69, amend to set aside up to $400,000. We just got the amount, I think, from a memo with the planning and development budget for the Tower District specific plan update. The motion 73 to expand the facade program. An amendment to fund the citywide program at 1.5. We did have it at general fund, but willing to consider that at the ARP, during the ARP discussions. I think those are all of mine. Thank you.
All right. Any additional? Councilmember Maxwell?
I left out just one small amendment. It was an amendment to motion number 46. That was the faxes zero fare motion. Just wanted to add a motion on top of that for Fax Department to update the Transportation Subcommittee every other month, as well as the administration regarding the status of Zero Fare and the progress on acquiring funding.
Council President, I have some
Yes.
changes.
Councilman Arias?
Motion 15, I'm going to withdraw that motion related to the fire department.
Withdrawn.
Motion 23, I want to specify that the regional parks are specifically Woodward and Roding.
What motion was that
24.
one, Councilman Arias?
Motion 23.
23.
Yeah. Motion 24, the 2 million allocation for the South Tower Park. We initially indicated 2 million from the general fund. I want to do 250 from the general fund and the remainder from Measure P when the park's ready for construction.
250,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Motion 28, I want to amend it to request the additional information related to contract services be provided to the Implementation Committee on Police Reform for the review and the recommendation on what actions to take with external contract policing. Motion 20 is as is. Motion 41 is withdrawn since the council already took action on the reopening of the public facilities. And in my motion 53, I did for the record add a couple of projects related to the 8th Street mobile vendor commercial kitchen and 2 million for affordable housing projects, single family affordable housing in West Fresno. Motion 57 to increase the council's infrastructure budget remains the same.
Okay.
And motion 87 to add an additional $5 million to the SB1 funding projects. I just wanted to clarify, Council, this was taken as an amended motion by Member Carbasi for $1 million set aside for D7. That's a separate motion, so it just should be separate as two separate motions. And then motion 92 to allocate $250,000 for legislative intern program for the council. That will be adjusted to $350,000.
Which motion was that one, Councilman
It's
Arias?
92.
92.
And then just to clarify, on 87, the adding additional $5 million from the general fund to the Department of Public Works, that motion would be adjusted to reflect the general fund, ARP, or any other sources that are available. 87.
87.
We're trying to save the administration some general fund flexibility.
All right, since we're doing this all right now instead of one by one, inevitably there will be stuff that comes up, but I'll go ahead and withdraw motion number 64. It's a duplicate of a earlier motion. So 64 is withdrawn on my part.
All right.
For motion number 65, I'm going to amend 65 with direction 3.5 million one-time allocation to the Housing Trust Fund with direction to find that money through ARP dollars. And I'll also be amending motion number 67, so $25 million for a forthcoming Fresno Housing Package Initiative. And there's going to be direction amended into that motion to identify those dollars between ARP and any other housing dollars we may receive from the federal or state government.
Flexibility?
Flexibility, yes.
All right. All right, any additional, Councilman Soria, I think you had one.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a new motion on the topic of the workers' comp. So I wanted to look at the line item in page 117, General Fund Account 52601. I wanted to reduce this workers' comp line item to reflect the couple years in terms of the increase. So the increase effectively would only be by about 600,000 for 2022 from the 2020 numbers, freeing up about $1.4 million in case we needed to balance the budget. So that's my motion.
All right.
I'll second that.
Yep.
I have another clarifying motion. So this was actually made through email, but I need to clarify it publicly for a second. It was a motion for $98,000 to add one cybersecurity analyst to the ISD.
Second.
That was motion 95?
90, on the most current version, it is listed as motion number 94.
All right. And
Yeah, so I just needed a second, which we got here today.
it's the one that reads, motion to add and fund a additional cybersecurity analyst for 98,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Maxwell.
That was item number 95.
What was that, clerk?
95?
94, on the most recent version. Let me see. I guess there's two new recent versions. Okay.
Mr. President, with all this motion sickness, can we get an updated list at some point? There's a
We
lot
will.
of changes.
We-
Okay.
We're definitely
Yeah.
going to get an
Yeah,
updated
yeah.
list.
Council
many,
members,
many
all of
versions.
you had an updated list on your desktops this morning, so if you threw it away,
Well, we're going to need an updated list after this, so don't worry about that.
Yes, yeah. And Council President, I'd like to throw another knockout punch, you know, the cat scratching.
Of course you would.
I'd like
Go ahead.
to make a motion to allocate $6 million of American Rescue Plan for general fund revenue replacement in this current budget,
All right, 6 million.
contingent upon that
Contingent.
availability, of course.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, we're getting some flexibility. That wasn't too bad of a knockout punch. If you would have said 177 million, that would have been.
I heard the murmurs spurring from the city manager's end over there, so, you know.
They want the flexibility. That's good. That's good flexibility, right?
Mayor approves. Mayor approves. $6 million.
Well, that's not going to get vetoed. That was a pretty good giveaway, Mayor.
Just clarification, do we know if we can actually, I'm all for revenue replacement, can we do that though?
It's contingent upon.
So
upon
check
that.
it out.
But how can we balance the budget without knowing if the money's going to actually be able to be used for that? Then we have to come back and find $6 million.
So it's not guaranteed, but it's very likely. The administration originally had said, according to some original calculations, we might be able to use up to 20 million in general fund revenue replacement. Given our growth, I think it's going to be lower than that.
Okay.
So I think 6 million is a fairly conservative estimate compared to the kind of original calculation.
Okay, but assuming that the federal government's going to allow us to do this when they come out with their rules in July or whenever. July or
They are.
September.
The general fund revenue replacement is in the current.
Okay.
And we do have the algorithm formula to determine
Okay.
that amount. So that'll come more baked. But again, 6 million compared to that 20 that was originally planned, I think is much more realistic at this time, given the growth rate in our revenues.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
We agree with that.
And this is a question for the administration on my motion 60.C, the Office of Immigrant Affairs. I know that we're working to place those folks under the mayor. I don't know what you call it, the Office of Community Relations or
Office of Community Affairs, yes.
Community Affairs. So I just want to make sure that I understand that. So it'll be the Office of Community Affairs with a person that will also be working for the Office of Immigrant Affairs under that umbrella. Is that correct? I want to make sure I understand that, because if not, I want to make a motion to include that.
Yes, unless that duty would be included within that, in terms of referring those individuals to the appropriate governmental agency to work through whatever issues. But if you're asking to add a body to that, that's different.
Yeah,
If
I'm
you need
asking
to.
to. I'm asking to add a body because I want somebody focused
Okay.
on that. I just want to make sure we're clear.
That would be fine under that. would that individual then would be dedicated to those duties?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we're clear, because part of that is I want that work to continue with the Committee of Immigrant Affairs that has been productive. As you know, the notario fraud, work that came out with the district attorney and with various partnerships came out of that work. I want to make sure that that's continued and that we have a point person that we can actually help navigate that process, and then also including the $200,000 for the legal defense or immigrants. I'm going to be sending that criteria. We're going to mirror what the city of Los Angeles has done with regards to giving priority to obviously domestic violence victims, women, children, and families in danger of being separated. That's my motion. So.
Is that an addition? I thought
Yeah, we're essentially clarifying that.
we don't need to second.
Actually, I think we do, because I think there was some
Okay, I'll
confusion on them.
second.
All right?
Council President?
Yes.
If I may ask a question.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that's on the record. So your motion is to add a position?
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, an amendment.
So, Council President, by the
Yes.
time we get to the second half of these motions after lunch, we'll have an updated printout with all the new amendments.
Hopefully sooner.
Hopefully
But
we got time.
we'll see how fast our folks can work. So for the administration, we just went through our exercise, obviously, of clarifying, the list of projects. We chatted a little bit about separating those funding sources, giving you the flexibility. Are there any questions on your end for the council?
Yeah, I think what we'd love to see is the clerk put out a new list, because, I mean, this is a reimagination of the list we had on Thursday. And I think the flexibility is certainly a word we embrace. It's just, there's only so many dollars. So our plan was this is a balanced budget, and so now we have this, which is the proposal to change this. So we look forward to hearing your discussion today on how you propose to do that.
City Manager, do you smell that?
Can I spell it?
Do you smell that?
Bacon?
It's sausage.
Oh,
It's cooking.
yes. No.
It's going to be okay. We're going to balance this thing.
Yeah,
it's a good
however you guys decide to balance it here. And if you ask, well, what would you guys do? We'd say, well, we're going to do this. We would like to do this. So you got $100 million worth of stuff on the list. We look forward to getting a new list from Brianna and then watching you guys figure out what stays and what goes.
And I want to make sure that we're clear, because I shared this with Assistant City Manager. We want to give you guys the flexibility, obviously, of finding the funding sources. There's still a lot of conversation left for ARP, for Measure P, for all these various funding sources. And we all know we're likely going to do a mid-year budget adjustment too. Hopefully, fingers crossed, right? Those returns come better. I think the purpose of this exercise was to ensure that the council had all of those projects queued up. We're going to submit the rebuilt Fresno attachment as the formal process for the budget to get those projects queued up. Obviously, the funding, you guys will have that ability to work. And hey, this funding source will match this project, and the council will obviously have a conversation about that subsequently on that. I just want to make sure that everything was clear, because I got a couple of questions from folks in the community on how is this going to work out with all this money in the.
Yeah, it's a zero-sum game. At the end of the day, it's a zero-sum game. We'll figure out how you guys want to balance the budget and create a balance by June 30th.
I'm getting some text messages. Brianna, is everything up? Our YouTube, everything, CMAC? Because there's some folks that are not, for whatever reason, doing it. You know what? Let's take a quick 5-minute break to make sure that everything's working. I think Councilman Corbasi, you had some folks
Yeah,
that pinned it too.
I think by an overwhelming number, the last time we took a direct vote to the residents, it was for the balanced budget amendment to make sure we pass balanced budgets. I just want us to be very careful. I'd much rather we make cuts or additions out here in public where everyone can see, rather than other things. So we're going to have to, this is our job. We're going to have to find a way to balance the budget.
Absolutely. City Manager, what was the total tally of dollar amounts for the projects that council made motions for?
Walking in
92?
today, I think it was up to 98 million. It was up to 98 million.
98 million. We're slated to receive 177 million from ARP multi-year.
Multi-year.
Right.
170 over 2 years, 85 and 85.
Over 2
But we've
years.
already allocated about $500 million worth of projects.
So, and then there are qualifying criteria haven't been out yet. So that's the risk if we say, hey, put that onto this, and then we get the rules and,
And what are we projecting for Measure P on a yearly basis?
Right now for this fiscal year, 29 million.
29 million?
Going forward, 38 million.
38 million. Okay. I just want to make sure folks understand that we're being fiscally prudent here. So we'll get into that space here
Council
in a
President,
little bit.
for the record, that also doesn't include the direct ARP funding that FACTS got or the direct ARP funding that the airport received. So we're at about $250 million.
But those are enterprise funds. We're talking about the general fund. It's a difference.
All of it has an impact on general fund.
Which, by the way, how much, so I want to make sure we're very transparent. So how much money did we get for FACTS and for airports in addition to what we're slated to? Do we have those numbers?
The airports department, I believe, is 9 million, FACTS is 26. Airports has their outline, FACTS does not.
Okay. When are they slated to receive them? Do we know?
Late this summer, early fall, just like the other.
Okay. And we know that, and I think, Mayor, we're slated to receive additional funding from the state as well, right, with regards to housing. Do we have some projections on those dollar amounts?
The dollar amounts are not clarified by city. The total dollar amount issued by the state is $12 billion over 2 years, which could be extended into a third year. And however, they're still trying to determine what the rules and criteria are going to be for that, because some of it's going to be for a freeway beautification effort, some of it's going to be for homeless, for services, some for housing, but they haven't solidified that. But I feel comfortable that there's going to be significant dollars in there for homeless and housing. So my recommendation, obviously, to the council is that any housing dollars we try to shift over to that account if we can possibly. And I think really with any of and all of these where there's going to be a shift from the general fund, whether it's to ARPA, to SB1, to any of those things, or to the state or Measure P, that all of those come with a contingent clause that as long as it is allowable, and I think that's fair. And I do have clarification on the one for I think Nelson made this one to shift or to add $6 million from ARP to the general fund for revenue replacement. Is that clarification mean that we are now increasing our budget by $6 million?
That is correct.
Okay.
All right.
Council President, I want to go on the record that both transportation 28.9, and then airports, both of those funding, we have to burn through the cash before we can draw down the, so it's not additional cash in our bank account.
Okay. Do you
Reimbursement.
Do you need some help spending that?
No, I'm just telling you, it's on a reimbursement basis.
No, it's just got to stay in the enterprise. I mean, the expectation why they got it was revenues are down.
Yep.
Here's a pot of money to backfill any revenue losses that you got. So that's the model that.
Because this council has a pretty good track record of being able to suggest expenditures.
No, I just really want to go on the record by saying,
understand.
look, we on our CARES money that we spent over 2 years, we have yet to be reimbursed by the federal government. So that's 32 million right there. And we've asked for that reimbursement back to November. So I just want to make it clear that this is not
Absolutely.
additional money in our bank account. This is about money that we have to spend and then show that we spent it the right way under whatever the guidelines are that don't exist yet, and then we get reimbursed for that.
Yep,
So-
no, absolutely. Understood, and appreciate that clarification. I think there's a lot of conversation going on in D.C. I made some phone calls over the weekend of some folks. We know that the infrastructure budget bill is working its way through the legislature and the president. I think Fresno will be in the front driver's seat on that, just being the 5th largest city in the state of California. So a lot of conversation to have with regards to infrastructure and projects. And I said this from the beginning, and I know we're not at the end, but I've seen really slim budgets This is not it, and I think we just have to be really strategic, and I think that's why you saw a lot of the conversation on Rebuild Fresno and wanting to invest in infrastructure, because that's what quality of life means for our residents, and I think we have a great opportunity to do that, and I know we're going to get there.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm really excited about Rebuild Fresno and the investments throughout this city. When you run a business and you have a budget, you can't budget for the future based on hopes and dreams. You have to do it based on what you have. You can anticipate receivables, but we don't know how much money, we have an estimate of how much money we're going to get. We don't know what the terms are yet. So it's really difficult to balance a budget with money that doesn't exist yet.
Well, we actually do, Councilmember Corbasi. We just qualified.
We don't know how we can spend that money. They may not let us use it for revenue replacement.
Absolutely.
And that's the
why,
fact.
and that's why we're putting in the language contingent. I mean, we do that all the time.
I know, but what happens if it's a no and we have to come back and find money? And it could be millions or tens of millions of dollars.
Then
And
we
instead of
come back and do
having,
that.
instead of having a mid-year where we're doling out money, we're going to cut things. And we should decide what we're going to cut now.
I don't think we need to have that conversation yet, respectfully disagreeing, because I think there's just so much funding coming in.
Yeah.
And you're right. If we don't have the certainty, then we'll come back, and as a body, we'll have a discussion, and by way of majority, we'll move in that direction. But I think right now, we have an obligation to let the community know what our thoughts are, at least where we're wanting to spend this.
Yeah.
And that was the purpose of the infrastructure.
Absolutely. I think that we have to be very transparent with the community, but when we balance the budget, we should do it with real money. I have a lot of faith in Uncle Joe. I have very little faith in Congress.
Council President,
go ahead.
I just wanted to
So
chime
sorry.
in real quick, because I know earlier there was a comment made about we were given a balanced budget, and that is true to a certain degree. Then fast forward, I think a week later, we were told there was a $20 million, I guess, revenues that weren't accounted for, right? Because they were like the later dollars that came in, which did give, and you guys proposed a plan, but it also gives the opportunity for this council to have the flexibility to figure out what is it that the constituents or the residents of this city want to see in their neighborhoods. And I think that we've all tried to make attempts. We are really living unprecedented times in terms of our revenues. And, I came in on, I think, at the tail end of the recession where folks were still recovering, and I think there's still some of that in this building, recovering of the recession and having PTSD where, I get it, we want to pinch every penny, but at the same time, I think we have to be realistic, and there are a lot of resources that are coming to the city, and that we owe it to our community to really truly rebuild Fresno. And the only way, I think this is a starting point, but what the council has offered, and I think we'll be able to debate every single motion, does in part also complement in really rebuilding our neighborhoods. And I think that that's what this council wants, and that's the message that it's sending to the residents of the city.
Sure. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. And I'm still getting folks saying that they don't have access to CMAC or YouTube. Just take a quick 5-minute break and we'll come back. All right, council. Let's get back to our stations. Marco, we good to go? Got everything up? City clerk, YouTube's up, Facebook, our Zoom stuff's, and for the benefit of the vote, you have to register in order to queue up and speak, correct? All right, so what we're going to do, just for the benefit of the public, we're going to go through our motions, clarify the language, the specifics, and then take a vote on them, and then that'll give clarity to our city clerk. They will compile a list during lunchtime, and we will come back and try to finalize and land this plane. So with that, why don't we go in order through these, starting with number one, Councilwoman Soria?
Okay, so the motion, as amended now, is to reduce the current citywide trimming maintenance schedule from FY22 budget proposed, which includes a $2.8 million allocation to a 10-year cycle. Sorry about that.
All right, and that motion was made by Councilwoman Soria, seconded by Councilmember Arias. Any opposition? Seeing none? Okay, we'll put that in the, now it's the second hopper, City Clerk. All right, number two was made by, our colleague wasn't here, but I seconded the motion. This was to receive a cost estimate for a one-time city, I think administration might have already had this, or city manager, do we have that estimate already?
We were advised by Public Works that if we used a straight line extrapolation, that's why we went from 1.4 to 2.8. That gets you from 10 to 20 to 10.
Okay.
So 1.4 is the 20. One time is going to be 28 million.
Okay. All right. I think we have that then. Let's go on to number three, which was made by Councilmember Arias.
The motion was to get a list of the projects as noted in the budget, and that has been completed, so I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Let's go through item number four, and that was done by Councilmember Carbasi.
It's pretty simple. I mean, we're required to increase the reserve, so just a $4 million increase.
All right. Any opposition to that?
Opposed?
We had a roll call vote on that one.
Sure. Let's do a roll call, City Clerk.
Councilmember Soria,
No.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Yes?
Councilmember Arias,
No.
Councilmember Maxwell,
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza,
Nay.
and Council President Chavez.
Yes. All right. Motion does not carry. Okay.
Can I ask legal counsel a question? What happens if we don't do that?
We don't put $4 million in the reserve.
So we're spending fake money we don't have, and then we're not saving money for when if there's a rainy day and we get into a recession. This is what's called a balanced budget. I'm just a little confused.
Yeah, Councilmember Carbasi, we have a very healthy reserve right now in the coffers.
Okay, well, but we increase the general fund over time, so the reserve has to grow with that, but that's fine. I just, I guess I'm the only fiscally responsible person here.
But
My other question, though, can we keep a running total of all the money we're spending?
Yep, administration does that.
We've been doing
Well,
that.
but we're the ones doing it, so can we do it from our side? Because we have to balance the
Actually,
budget, not
clarifying,
them.
point of clarification. We've given you our proposal to spend. As you guys are adding, that's on you guys to figure out what's in, what's out.
No, we do. And that's the purpose of this exercise, City Manager and my colleague. We're going to compile a list right after this. It'll give us clarity, and then we can start kind of working through that list, make sure that that's balanced, and that we have all the other projects queued up that we discussed. So I guarantee you we are going to get there.
Perfect.
Council President, I have a question for the city attorney. On the ordinance that was created to have a percentage of our reserve match our overall budget, what happens if we don't have that $4 million this year and our budget is, say, $400 million?
Right. It's the Reserve Management Act that says that the reserve should be 10% of general fund operations.
Correct.
There is no consequence attached to it if
Okay.
there's a failure to keep the fund up to 10%.
Okay.
All right, let's go on to item number item number 5, and that was by Councilmember Carbasi, too. think it's a motion to add to
Well,
economic development.
Why don't we
coordinator
combine this with the other motion that was made? So there was a motion later on, I think you seconded, council member, to attach funding to that. Let me just, give me 1 second to get to that.
Let's go in order. Let's not hop around too much.
Fine.
position? All right, is there any opposition to this item, number 5?
Council President, just to clarify with the administration recommended these two positions, but within the existing budget, correct?
Correct, yeah, we would, and this was on me. We wanted 2 people, we put the money in there, we didn't put the
Okay.
PCN request. So this is a no fund adder
Got
because
it.
we have the money available.
Well, with that, this motion, I'm supportive of it as long as it aligns with the administration's recommendation of not adding additional funding.
All right,
So, just to clarify, so you're in line with the administration on this one? Good.
so.
I'll remember that.
So no opposition, it passes, it goes on to the second hopper. All right, number 6, I think, was an estimate that, or actually, Councilmember Maxwell, did you withdraw that?
Number 6, I have withdrawn.
Withdrawn, that's what I had in here. All right, number 7, motion to create the community coordinator position for LGBTQ plus in the Office of Community Affairs for 100K. Councilmember Carbasi, you made that motion. I seconded. Any opposition? Seeing
I'd like to
none.
amend the motion, Council President. I'd like to amend the motion, friendly amendment, if accepted by the maker and the seconder, to redirect $100,000 to the Economic Development Department to provide LGBT small business resources and to fund city-sponsored events for the LGBT community.
Second that.
If you want to make a separate motion for a separate thing, that's okay, but the problem we have right now with the LGBTQ community is because of employers not understanding the community, they can't actually get a job, let alone open a business. So you're welcome to make another motion, but I think this position's important because you got to walk before you can run.
All right, so and since there was not that was a friendly no, any opposition to this as it stands? Seeing none, passes.
Roll call.
I want to do a roll call? All right, let's do a roll call. City Clerk for number 7.
Without the amendment.
Wait, so, yeah, that was a clarification. So no amendment?
Correct. The maker motion did not agree to the amendment, so
So
it's a
if
straight.
we add?
Yeah, if you want to, sure. He wanted to replace the funding, take this away, and put it to economic development.
Yeah, I wanted to take it from a position to a direct resource to the community.
I'm
So
sorry, but I don't.
That's a separate motion. Let's focus on the motion that we have here. That's to create the community coordinator position for LGBTQ in the community affairs for 100K. So if there's opposition to that, anybody want to register opposition? Seeing
Councilmember asked for a
Councilmember
roll
So-
call vote on that one.
roll call.
Councilmember Soria,
No.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Arias,
No.
Councilmember Maxwell,
Nay.
Councilmember Redfeld's absent, Council Vice President Esparza,
Nay.
and Council President Chavez.
Yes, so motion does
I'm
not
sorry.
pass.
I just want to clarify.
President.
My Democratic colleagues just voted to not fund an LGBTQ
Council President.
coordinator. I just want to clarify that point.
That's correct.
Take those flags down.
Correct.
Don't put those flags up.
Council President.
All right, Councilmember Carbasi. All right.
Council President,
Yes.
can I just make a motion to direct the $100,000 to the Economic Development Department for the support of LGBT businesses and city-sponsored events for the community?
All right,
I'll second
motion's
that.
made, seconded by Vice President Esparza. City Attorney, can we take the vote now, or do we have to put it at the?
That's up to the council.
Let's take the vote now. Might as well get that. All right, let's do a roll call vote on that one, too.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Arias,
Yes.
Councilmember Maxwell,
Aye.
Council Vice President Esparza,
Aye.
and Council President Chavez.
Yes.
Council, if I could help you clarify something. When you're voting to add funding and a position, that it will reflect that the position will be added to the position authorization resolution that you'll vote on Thursday also, so we don't have to separately amend that. Can that be understood?
Yes.
So when they bring that on Thursday, if you voted to add a position, they'll go ahead and add it to the part.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
That was not the case because this motion wasn't approved, but you're saying for future reference throughout this process.
All right.
Sorry?
All right, motion number 8 was made by Councilmember Arias.
Motion number 8 is to get all the job descriptions, which the administration has provided, so I withdraw the motion.
All right, withdrawn. Motion number 9.
Which one was that one?
That was number 8, they provided the job descriptions to Councilmember Arias. So now we are on to motion number 9, motion to fund the Infield Development Center program at $5 million. That was made by Councilmember Arias.
Council President, I'd like to amend my motion to reduce the amount to $2.5 million
Okay.
and to pursue all funding sources available for this work, including ARP.
Okay. Motion was made and amended. Any opposition? All right, motion passes, reduces the amount. Let's go to motion number 10. Motion to use 100% of $1.5 million of real estate tax to fund annual contributions of the Housing Trust Fund. That was made by Councilmember Arias as well.
The motion remains as recommended by the city manager.
All right, any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. Now we're on to motion 11. Motion to receive the full amount of tax incentive liability due by the city. How much has been paid and where does it appear in the budget? Councilman Arias?
City manager, I know you guys have given us like a dozen memos. Is this one of them?
Yeah.
All right. With that, I'll withdraw the motion. By the way, thank you and all your staff for all those memos that you provided to us. It's been very helpful.
All right, withdrawn. Number 12, City Attorney. That was done by Vice President Esparza.
Yes, so this motion was to keep code enforcement in the CAO's office, maintaining the status quo, including all funding, positions, and resources as submitted by the city attorney and as may be amended by the council this month.
All right.
I actually wanted to ask, so the administration, given the fact that we're going to vote on this motion, it likely will pass, what is your position on maintaining the...
Well, we have another motion that addresses the code enforcement folks that they have teed up to. Vice
Okay,
President.
we'll leave the motion as is for now.
Okay. All right. It was motioned by Vice President, seconded by Councilmember Bredefeld. Do you want to do a roll call? Or any opposition? Let's do any opposition.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Yes.
Councilmember Arias?
Yes.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Aye.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Aye.
Council President Chavez?
Yes. All right, passes. Now on to 13, motion to move PCN 6122 out of fax to Fire Department and reclassified. That was done by Councilmember Carbasi.
It's pretty simple. I mean, if the fire fire chief or Mr. Barthel want to comment, but I mean, it's pretty easy.
We don't have to have them comment. I think we could just vote. Any opposition to this? Seeing none, passes. Item number 14, Councilwoman Soria. Goes to purchase property on Ashland.
Excuse me, this was the motion that I originally amended earlier today, and, oh my God.
Could you read
As it stands, no modifications to it?
Yeah, that's for, sorry, I'm like, oh my God, I have so many motions in front of me.
I'm getting motion sickness too.
I know. So this is the motion to purchase the property on Ashland Avenue and appropriate sufficient funds for the construction of Fire Station 12, amend to fund out of ARP.
All right, any opposition? It passes. Add that to the second, Hopper. I believe 15 was withdrawn, correct? Councilor
Correct.
Rodriguez?
I withdrew it for the record.
Okay. 16, motion to allocate sufficient American Recovery Funds to construct fire training facility.
Oh, yes.
Councilwoman Soria?
Yes, to ensure that that is funded at ARP.
All right.
That's what
So as it stands, any opposition? Seeing none, passes. 17, motion to allocate 160 to equip all FFD apparatuses with ballistic vests and helmets. Councilmember Carbasi?
It might seem unusual, but we actually do have our firefighters trained for situations where there's an active shooter, and by having these vests and helmets, it gives them somewhat of a fighting chance when they're the
Right.
first line of response.
Any opposition to this?
Question. Councilmember Carbasi, do you intend for this to be out of the general fund or any available funding source?
Any available funding source.
Thank you.
All right, passes. 18, done by Councilmember Maxwell.
Yeah, motion to provide a list of all capital park projects included in the FY 2021 budget that were not fully funded or went undeveloped. I don't recall receiving that memorandum. Did we receive that one?
I'm checking.
Councilmember Maxwell, We just got it this morning, so it's in process, so you should get it, I would say, before noon.
In that case, I will withdraw my motion.
All right, motion's withdrawn. Let's go on to number 19, which is made by Councilwoman Soria. That was a motion to implement June 25th, 54B for program to partner with organizations. I think it's the Mural Project, correct, Councilwoman Soria?
Yeah, I had amended this to provide funding to the Arts Council to implement the Mural Parks project up to 100,000, which was set last year. So we're just moving it to continue it this year so that we actually get it started. So that's the amended motion.
All right,
May
any
I ask for
opposition?
clarification? Is your intent to move $100,000 out of the actual graffiti abatement work to move it to the mural project?
We're flexible,
Okay.
All right,
so as long as it gets funded. So we're.
Can I find out before I vote? I don't want to, I support it. I just want to make sure if the funding is coming from graffiti abatement, I can't support it because I don't want to cut that down. So-
Preference would be to add it, not take it from graffiti.
okay.
Okay.
Any
Well, I'll
oppos-
leave that up to you guys.
Any
That's what I said.
opposition? All right, it passes. Item, motion number 20, that was done by Councilmember Arias. I believe you.
Correct. Council is to get a complete budget of Beautify Fresno. That has been provided, so the motion is withdrawn.
All right, withdrawn. 21, motion to set aside $8 million specifically for parks acquisition. Vice President, I believe you made that motion.
Yep. The motion remains as is, ready to vote.
All right, it stands. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. Motion number 22, establish a fund, park rangers. I think Councilwoman Soria spoke about that. You wanted a 30-day plan for implementation of the park ranger program. If you want to clarify that motion for the record before we vote. That was number 22.
Did you announce the amendment that I made?
Did we codify that? But if you want to clarify that,
Yeah,
that'd
the
be helpful.
motion 22nd, I said amend to provide direction to come back in 30 days with a plan on how to establish the program out of Measure P.
Okay. Any opposition? Seeing none, passes. 23, motion 23 is to fund.
Council President?
Yes.
Chavez, if I may interrupt. I need to go back to motion 18. Councilmember Maxwell, it's direction 18 that's in the process. We don't have motion 18 just yet. So that's still being worked on. I know you withdrawn your motion, but I wanted to make that clear at this point.
But it's still in the process and the works
It
of getting
is.
to council.
It is in the
today.
process.
That's fine, thank you.
When do you anticipate getting that information to Councilman
I've got to
Maxwell?
work with the department to formalize that. I don't have a estimated time to complete that yet.
After lunchtime?
Is it safe to assume we'll receive it no later than tomorrow, correct?
I want to confirm that before I can give you
It's
that.
important that we receive these
Sure.
before we adopt a budget.
I totally understand.
Okay, thank you.
I think the mayor's currently writing the memo, so.
Yay. All right, we were on motion number, I believe
23.
23.
Correct. This motion is to allocate $1 million for playground equipment replacement at the 2 regional parks in the city, Woodward and Rhodey, and the motion remains as is.
All right, any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. Item number 24, motion to allocate $2 million for South Tower. I think you modified it to include $250,000 and the rest for Measure P. Is that correct, Councilman Arias?
Correct. It's amended to reflect that $250,000 now from the Parks General Fund, and then the remaining would come from the Measure P allocation for construction of new parks.
All right, any opposition? And none, it passes. All right, motion number 25, motion to allocate $1 million for the water tower renovation, implementation of the Eaton Plaza Master Plan. Councilman Arias.
Motion remains as is.
All right, any opposition?
Opposition.
Okay, one registered no. Item passes. Okay, and then we're on to 26. Motion to set aside $63,000 in general fund dollars for crime scene investigation with ARPA guidelines that do not allow for the use of ARPA funds. Councilmember Maxwell?
Stands as is.
All right, any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. 27, motion to restore all citywide bicycle units to their full capacity by fall of 2021.
Stands as is.
All right, any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. 2028, motion to eliminate all external service policing contracts. I think you made a modification to that, Councilmember Arias?
Correct, Council President. For the record, the motion has been amended to request all the additional information on the contracts, the fill rate, all the details to be submitted to the Implementation Committee of the Police Reform Team for their review and recommendation.
All right. Any opposition? Seeing none. All right. 29, I believe that was withdrawn, Councilmember Maxwell?
That is correct, Council President.
All right. Item number 30, motion to approve and appropriate police funding for new positions. Until existing vacancies are filled, additional funding will be held in a contingency fund.
Council President, from my understanding, and City Manager can confirm, but they already baked this into the budget, so I don't think the motion is necessary. Is that correct, City Manager?
That is correct. This is how we will be managing the budget.
With that, let the record reflect that the item is being withdrawn.
All right. Oh, yeah, this is where we spent 15 minutes talking about the same thing that you guys
Yeah.
are arguing about. All right.
We're a bunch of English learners.
31, motion for council to receive quarterly progress reports on filling sworn officer positions. Councilmember Esparza, Vice President.
Yeah. Ready for a vote?
All right. Any opposition?
Council President, can we add also the long-term absences? I'd like to receive that as a regular update along with the filling of positions, if that's okay.
More information doesn't hurt. I'll accept that amendment.
All right. With that amendment, City Clerk, did you register that amendment? Any
Yes.
opposition? Seeing none, it passes. Item number 32, motion to receive a true cost of the proposed budget irrespective of funding sources, including authorized positions in the budget. Councilmember Arias?
Information has been provided. The item is withdrawn.
All right, drawn. Motion 33, to request what the calculation would be to get the 34 positions for dispatchers that are needed to be within the 95% success rate. We should be answering the incoming calls within 15 seconds was the goal. I think Councilmember Bredefeld made that motion. Is there any opposition to that? Seeing none, passes. Motion 34, motion to provide a memo on FPD's effort to redirect.
Did we ever get the
non-emergency.
calculation of the cost?
I believe they did.
Did we get that memo?
Administration?
On the 34,
We're checking.
I don't think I saw that.
I don't know if it was Chief Reed. Was it Chief Reed that presented or Merca? Well, if you haven't, let's get that, and that way we'll
Okay, perfect.
we'll have that.
I'm seeing that we did prepare it. We're just looking for where it is in the Ethernet for between there and here. So we'll get you that information as we go through here.
All right. Motion number 34, to provide a memo on FPD's efforts to redirect non-emergency calls to alternative dispatch team. I think that's Councilmember Maxwell's motion.
Still waiting on that memo, Council President, so the motion will stand as is.
All right. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. 35, motion to allocate $70,000 to complete the police officer memorial. Was done by Councilmember Bredefeld, seconded by Councilmember Arias. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. 36, we are on motion to instruct the administration and PD to meet with FPOA to discuss and negotiate and it says inventive, but I think it's an incentive program paid for by the city, so that areas of high incidence of crime or high profile locations will be able to have an incentive system so that FPD officers will be encouraged to take those contracts. That was motion done by Councilmember Carbasi.
Right. So, administration, were any meetings conducted with FPOA to look into a program?
We have not initiated this discussion with FPOA at this time.
Well, before we vote on the final budget, I would like those discussions held. That way we can incorporate it, because the fact is that right now we have more contracts than officers willing to take them. And there are businesses that unfortunately have more calls for service. So if we can have a contract there as opposed to somewhere that's maybe not as many incidents, the officer may prefer that. But it'll free up patrol to do what they have to do. So are we going to be able to have those conversations and come back to something before we vote on the final budget?
Yeah, the idea that we would create a new rate structure that would allocate high crime areas would get a different rate than low crime areas, that's just going to be a nexus study we haven't initiated at this point yet.
Well, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting not a study, but an incentive, basically, where we can easily calculate what businesses that have applied for contract policing have a higher number of calls, or something that's in the media that's been a high-profile area. I don't think it's very difficult to determine that.
I don't think it's difficult. It's just that would be something that would be attached to the master fee schedule. So we would be applying that cost to anybody that said, I'm in a designated high crime area, therefore I'm going to want contract police, therefore I pay off this schedule.
But if it's tied to the current fee, let's say it's a 10% incentive, if it's tied for that, why would you need another study? It's tied to that main number.
Otherwise, the concern I would have would be that I or the police chief could just randomly say, you pay 10%, you pay 15, we need to have it in a structured way so that it.
I'm not suggesting different tiers. It's simply, if you're in one of these identified spots, there's a flat extra incentive temporarily to go to those sites. I want to make it as simple as possible.
And we do want to make it
guys-
simple. We do want to make it simple. We just need to make sure that there's some controls in the system so that people don't just start charging for things.
Understood.
Without any controls on the system. And next thing we know, we
Right.
hear is, why did I pay 20? How come
Right.
he paid 15? How come he paid 6?
Well, I would appreciate that, but if you guys had actually met with them like we requested, maybe that would have made it a lot easier for me to accept that. There wasn't even a conversation with them.
Has not
I'm
been a
getting
conversation with
flashbacks to the last administration. No, 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 no. So can we have conversation, please, and come back to us before we have the budget to see? If it's a no, that's fine. If we realize we can't do it because X, Y, and Z, we can come back and solve that problem. But let's have the conversation first.
We can have a conversation.
Thank you. Then
What do you guys want to get paid?
I'm going to withhold my motion to another date. I don't want to withdraw it. I want to keep it, and we can bring it back potentially.
I'm going to hold it in no man's land.
Council President, can we get a roll call on 36 to 40?
Well, he's withholding
37 to
36.
40,
Let's
I
go
guess.
37 on that. Motion to increase the incentive for lateral officers hired from 10K to 20K, made by Councilmember Carbasi.
Council President, I just want to clarify, we're not discussing 36 at all for now?
If you want to discuss it, of course, you can, but I'm going to hold off till they have a meeting and get more information. But if you want to discuss it, that's fine.
I just want clarity.
Sure.
If we're going to discuss it, we're going to vote on it today. If not, then we won't.
Yeah, it may be withdrawn ultimately, but we're just going to wait to see if they get information.
All right, 37, motion to increase the incentive for lateral officers hired from 10K to 20K. Councilmember Carbasi, you make that motion.
Well, I have a feeling I know how this is going to go, but no, here's the thing, guys. I know that.
Don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Now, look, I know you guys get upset with me. I don't play ball. I have an independent mind. I'm going to vote my district. And the fact of the matter is, you can punish me all you want. Just don't punish the LGBTQ community or the officers or the people. You can take it out on me. Just don't do it on them. The fact of the matter is, we're having a harder time recruiting professional positions. Planning department, police department, fire department, fortunately, we have a lot of interest. So we have 699 officers right now. This is a crisis. Part of it's workman's comp, but a big part of it is officers are leaving early. We can't retain officers. It is anyone who can work in Clovis or Dinuba and make more money and have less violent calls is going to do that. So we have to compete and make it more lucrative to take the risk to come to Fresno. I'll wait till you're done. Sorry.
No.
Good?
No, we were just asking if it was punishing the LGBT community when you stood behind Jerry at the Eaton Plaza.
No,
That's
Council
what we're talking
Vice President is part of this.
No,
Focus on
that's
the
okay.
motion.
No, hold on. No,
37.
it's okay.
Great
It's okay.
question.
No, it's okay.
You want to know what we're talking about?
No, it's perfectly okay.
Colleagues, let's
No.
focus on the
No,
motion at
hold
hand
on.
that we have
I don't
here.
take it personally. You're right. I stood behind the mayor at Eaton Plaza because I didn't abandon the mayor to play politics. I was out there when Councilmember Soria had that great ceremony, and that's on the record. And I spoke on the record. We can get petty all we want, but we cannot divide the city.
Council,
You guys took a vote out on me because I wouldn't play ball. Council President.
You got petty. You asked what I was talking about, so I told you we were talking about.
I didn't get petty. I have the floor, and you guys are having side conversations. You guys are going to vote me down anyways. Let me just talk, if that's okay.
You're right. Let's move it on.
Okay,
Vice President.
all right. Jeez.
Go ahead, Councilmember Carbasi.
Okay, and I'm sorry to the public. This is not the way it should be. This is unbecoming of this council. We all have a responsibility, and I'm sorry you have to see this. This is just not right. Bottom line, 699 police officers right now. We're in a crisis. I never imagined we'd get below 700. This is an incentive program that was suggested, I think, quite a while ago by a former deputy chief. It's temporary until we can get the numbers up, doubling the incentive for lateral hires. These are people that are vetted, that already have experience, that can enter faster into our pool of officers. So that's pretty much
All right.
all I
and
got.
So motion as it is written.
Council President?
Let's do a roll call.
Was there a funding source with this identified? Because-
Unfortunately, Mayor,
So here's
Yeah.
here's the calculation on this. If you're going to hire 120 officers over 15 months, in a fiscal year, that's going to be 96. That's going to be 8 per month. So you take about 25% of those are going to be laterals. So that's about 24 per year. So it'll be about a $240,000 cost.
understood. And Mayor, this is one of those cases where
Sure.
I'm open to funding sources. It's just,
Well, if it's, I just want to make sure.
Can leave it
because
flexible.
If it's a general
Yeah.
fund, we need to put that in there as a general
Yeah.
fund, that's all. And if you do, that's fine. We just want to make sure we log it.
sure, thank you.
All right, so with that, the motion is clear as it's written. Let's do a roll call.
Councilmember Soria, absent. Councilmember Carbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Arias, Councilmember Maxwell,
Nay.
Councilmember Bradfield's absent. Council Vice President Esparza,
Nay.
and Council President Chavez.
Yes.
I couldn't even
Councilmember
hear some of
Soria,
them.
did
So
you
what's the
wanna
total?
place your vote?
Can you tally the vote? This was to add the additional 10K to 20K, increase the incentive for lateral officers hired for the Fresno Police Department to
No.
recruit them. So that was a no. Did you tally those votes? All right, doesn't
What's-
pass.
What's the total? I couldn't hear some of them. I'm sorry. I really couldn't.
It was just you and I who voted yes.
Oh, okay.
I'll do the math easier for you. All right. Number 38, motion to raise the base salaries for a new officer in their first year to that of Clovis PD, make us compatible. Obviously subject to meet and confer. This is another Councilmember Carbasi item.
Yeah, this is a big one. I know. I mean, there's a lot of implications, which is why I wanted you guys to meet and come up with what the numbers would be. I said it before. Clovis, less violent crime, less of a gang problem. It's tough being in Fresno. So I think it's all pre-baked and done. I'm pretty sure it's not going to pass. But I think we need to go on the record talking about what we're going to do with the fact that we can't retain and hire more officers. So were there any discussions with FPOA or any numbers on what the base salary is in Clovis and what it would cost?
We did get the information about the base salaries in Clovis. It wasn't $800, it was about $1,200. The challenge we've got, though, is that if you change the A and move this up, that impacts the B, that impacts the C, the D. So we did not run through any, we got to go through all those numbers. So
Yeah.
just changing the one deck in the card because ripple effect throughout the whole
No,
system.
it's an absolute big deal, and I understand that. But again,
The incentive was easy to do, like, because we did the math,
Sure.
the mayor did.
Sure.
12 times 24.
sadly that failed. I don't think we're very
Yeah.
pro-safety in
This
the
one's going to
community.
take a little more research because
Yeah.
we've got to move all those tiers.
Yeah, if we can get that, because we have a retention problem, and we've got to be competitive. So if we can get that, that would
But
be
is
great.
it, the motion is to raise, so don't you want the information
I
before?
do, so we can't vote on it, so
So-
I'm going to withhold.
Why don't you amend your motion so that we get that information? Because I think what's important, like, I'd like to see if,
Already voted on it.
if you're going to get this information, I'd like to see also how is it comparable with our, with the pension package?
Sure,
Because I know that we have
absolutely.
a pretty good system
Yeah.
in comparison to other cities, you know? So we can't just, when we're looking at the compensation, we can't just look at salaries. There's so much more that this city provides than other smaller cities don't that, you know, we want to, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's not I guess it's not an apples to apples comparison.
Absolutely, no, that, and we need the information before we can do that. I agree. The problem with younger folks when they go into the workforce, they don't think about a pension like someone that we'll think about now, unfortunately. But you're right, we have a great pension system. So I'm going
Do you
to
wanna
not
withdraw it?
withdraw, I'm going to withhold the motion. Thank
All
you.
right, let's go on to item number 39. That was to add the additional 20 CSOs for district and so they can respond to calls. Any opposition?
We didn't get a cost, but we did ask for a roll call vote on 36 to 40.
Yep.
Did we get a cost though, estimate on the 20 CSOs? Because it's an ongoing, because I know a lot of them are one time that we're voting on, but I want to know.
Henry,
Councilmember Soria, the costing for those 20, salaries, fringe, equipment that they need, it's about $760,000.
Can I add something, Henry, though? We talked about a staggering of the hiring. So in meeting with Chief Balderrama, he said to hire all at once and to go through the field training program. So we looked at funding those on a staggered basis. So we had 10 coming on at the that would be funded at 75%. Is that right, Henry? And then So ultimately, it was about, I think at the average was, out of the 30, they would be funded at 6 months, 50%. So the cost he's going to give you is 50% for a year, so whatever that cost is.
Yeah, I appreciate the clarification, Mayor. I have reservations on this one because your proposed budget is already tripling the number of CSOs, and we are authorizing more positions in PD than we actually intend to fill at this point. So appreciate the update, but it sounds like we should not bite off more than we can chew quite yet within this fiscal year.
CSOs are a little bit different, Vice President. CSOs are the ones that actually respond, and that was really the intent to beef up that with our police department. We know that they're swamped, they're busy responding to calls, and when you tie up a patrol officer doing a lot of the calls for service, this was really designed to increase the level of customer service so that when folks get burglarized or vandalized or a break-in, somebody actually shows up to their door, takes the report, rather than them just telling them, hey, go fill out a report online. I think that's probably one of the most important calls that my office has gotten. So that was really the intent of that. But as the mayor said, it's going to be a staggered approach. That 760 total package obviously would be smoothed out over a period of time. And I think it's a wise investment, but you vote according to how you feel you have that.
Council President,
yes.
if I may, I hesitate on this one because, as was noted, we're adding 31 positions to the police department. The police department currently has 60 vacancies. So I struggle to just allocate more positions and more general fund money without first seeing our ability to fill the positions that we've already authorized. And I know you guys have put out a pretty aggressive recruitment effort, and there's more than 100 police applicants, cadets. So I think this is going to be a conversation once we get to the adjustments and we have a clear picture about a lot of these projections.
Yeah, I think, Mr. President, what really helps us fill that deficit is incentives. Unfortunately, this council voted those down.
Well, CSOs are a little bit different, and I don't think they were having a hard time recruiting CSOs on that. I think that would really boost our customer service. But
if you stagger them, I guess I want to understand. So we have 10 in this budget.
Correct.
So can you explain to me the staggering?
The staggered.
Then if you add 20 more, what does that mean?
So you'd bring 10 on in October. You'd bring another 10 on in January, and then you'd bring another 10 on in April, I believe it is. Yes. So, and the reason for that is not just the hiring. Hiring of Council President's correct. Community service officers, hiring of those, there's a lot of people that apply.
Right.
It's putting them through the training program where you only have so many training officers that are training police officers and community service officers. So it allows for the adequate training time of those. So that's the purpose of the staggering with Chief Balderrama.
yeah. The chief just pinged me. He said he could speak on this, but I don't think there's a need. I think everybody understands that. And when we get calls from people that have their home burglarized or their business burglarized or car vandalized, we need to be able to give them an answer and say, hey, somebody's going to actually go out there, take your report, do their due diligence, and just have that customer service, because we know that our officers are already swamped out there on the streets trying to suppress and stop the crime that's going on. So with that, what's that?
So they take different calls?
Yeah, if an officer responds to a call, he's going to get tied up, and that was the logic behind what Chief Balderrama explained when he came and presented to that. So with that, let's do a roll call vote on that. 39, City Clerk.
Councilmember Soria?
No.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Yes.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
Councilmember Arias?
No.
And Council President Chavez?
Yes. All right. Motion does not pass. Let's go on to number 40. Motion to launch an incentive program for 10K for police officers to live in South Fresno, south of Shaw Avenue. That's Councilwoman Soria's item.
And I actually want to amend the motion. So the motion would be to launch the program, but would say up to 20,000 as an incentive program. But it would come out of salary savings.
Okay.
Can I get a clarification on that? Is that for existing police officers that live south of Shaw? Or,
For new officers as an incentive program that want to come and work in our city or
Okay.
want to move.
okay, so individuals that currently live there would not receive the
No.
incentive, but any additional officers that were hired
Or
existing officers who
that
moved?
want to move and purchase a home.
Okay.
Yes.
And just a point of clarification, we'll need some guidance on this particular one. So right now, 40% of all of the Fresno police officers live in the city of Fresno. Of that number, 40% currently live south of Shaw. So we just need understanding of, do you want it to be some other percentage? Just at what point do we say we've saturated the south of Shaw requirement for police officers?
I think we could come up with that guideline. I think that the motion is to create an incentive, and I think we could work with you guys to figure out, like, if we're going to do it actually up to 20, like what would be the better number? I'm just kind of setting some parameters, and then we can go in depth in terms of the actual guidelines.
Okay, and then to Councilmember
Because
Arias's motion about the money we're using, there is no salary savings in FPD. It's all locked in there in the contingency for hiring police officers, so we would need to have somehow a modification of Councilmember Arias's motion.
If you recall, City Manager, I withdrew my motion.
Oh, good, okay, great. Because we were going to manage it, but we told you we were going to manage it that way. So
Correct.
now what I'm telling you is I'm not going to manage it that way. I'm going to
So
use some of that money for other things.
I think the intent, City Manager, is if there is salary savings based on, the time it takes you all to hire an officer, which I think it's about a year from beginning to end, then that's where the pot of money would come from.
Okay.
All right, so motion, as it was modified by Councilwoman Soria, up to $20,000.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just for my colleagues, I'm wondering, actually, administration, how many positions do we have funded for police officers?
We have the equivalent funding for 820 police officers.
820, and we're at 699. I'm just trying to understand why we would support this motion when we don't support a motion when we're in a crisis to give $10,000 for laterals so we can get more officers patrolling our neighborhoods. Yet, we talk about one Fresno, and now it's, well, let's have them live in South Fresno. It's fine, live anywhere, live in the city, that's great. I just don't get the dichotomy there.
Councilmember, if you may, I can just explain to you my position. Is when we're talking about increasing salaries for officers, there's a Labor Management Act. It's one of the many gifts of our former mayor that clearly articulates that anytime we are looking at changing working conditions, salary implications, we do so in the negotiating process, and then we're given 5-year projections to make sure that we can afford whatever we agree on. So my preference is anything that has to do with raising baseline salaries across the board should be done in that process in accordance to the Labor Management Act.
Okay. So, to clarify, this doesn't apply to that. This is the same thing as an incentive. So, anything we do is meet and confer. I said that 3 times last time, you weren't listening, and that's fine. But this is the same exact thing. I mean, I get the rope-a-dope in the games. I feel like we're not really making sausage. It's already been made, and that's fine. But you are not comparing. It's apples to apples, and you're trying to make it apples to oranges. Let's just call it as it is and be realistic here.
Councilmember Carbasi, for me, so that's his position, but for me, I supported the 10,000 lateral
Absolutely,
incentive. And
right.
I think, and I still stand by it, and I support it. I just don't feel like we need to increase it. I get it that we still have, issues in terms of filling vacancies, but I'm hoping that incentive does help. I think that also for those folks that would be new, they could actually not only qualify for the 10,000, but if they move to South Fresno, they would qualify up to 20,000. So that's 30,000. So it's not a either or. Someone could actually get both.
Why not open it?
So that's what's important to
I know.
me.
I don't question.
So I just want and I
yeah.
understand your frustration, but I think that at the end of the day, each of us have a reason as to why we're going to support certain incentives or over other or modifications of it.
And I really appreciate you taking the time. I don't actually question you. I think for some people they have reasons, other people it's politics and pettiness, but I don't hold you in that category.
All right.
The reality is,
did you get your question answered, Councilor Carbasi?
why not make it citywide? Why discriminate? We always talk about the whole, why not just make it citywide? You live in the city of Fresno.
I understand that, and if folks are open to that, that could be at a different level, but I think if we want to give our officers up to the 20,000, I think that if there's an incentive for them to live in a little bit more challenged neighborhood that we're trying to invest in to help and reduce, the statistics, I think that's something that we need to consider.
Okay.
That's why it's important to me.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, let's do a roll call on number 40.
Councilmember Soria?
Yes.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Yes.
Councilmember Arias?
Yes.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Aye.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Aye.
Council President Chavez?
Yes. All right, motion passes. I believe 41 was withdrawn by Councilmember Arias. Go on to 42, DPU, motion to provide a cost analysis of a two-person. Actually, this motion says it was addressed on direction number 34 by DPU. Councilmember Esparza?
Yeah, so as I noted in the beginning, I'm amending this from just the direction to a motion to actually create this pilot program within District 7 to be funded partly from the convenience center, the $267,000 there, with direction to the administration to find the rest of those funds within DPU in order to have this two-person litter program that proactively cleans and responds to residents in District 7.
Yeah,
All right.
and I just want to clarify, we've given you a balanced budget. You are now responsible for doing a balanced budget, to adopt a balanced budget. So the idea that, hey, go find the rock, yeah, this is your moment now to balance the
Moment to
budget.
shine.
Yep, this is your moment to shine, yes.
So the cost estimates that you provided was around 400 some odd thousand. So I'm giving you about a little over half of the funding from the reallocation of the convenience center to this, from that solid waste project to this solid waste project. And there is direction being, well, if this passes, there will be direction given to the administration to find the remaining funds within DPU to fund this program out of DPU.
Yeah, City Attorney, let me just clarify. We're in the budget adoption process right now. They need to adopt a balanced budget.
The city must adopt a balanced budget by June 30th.
But the council is supposed to adopt the balanced budget.
The council votes on it,
So-
yes.
And then when they do the balanced budget, then you give it to me, and then I go administer it the next year.
So, City Manager, you want me to start slicing through? I mean, I'm trying to get flexibility here, right, with this one pilot program for one district. You want me to start slicing through this budget?
Well, it's consistent with kind of how we're doing it here. It's just go find the money, go find the money. We found the money, we have the money. Here's the proposal. So if the idea is we want to do it different and you want to fund it different, then just tell us how you want to do that.
So if I'm understanding you, City Manager, what you're suggesting is instead of just providing direction to find the funds, that you'd rather we say take $200,000 from the Beautify Fresno budget of 1.2 to fund this pilot?
Those are the kinds of, yeah, if that's your proposal, and if that's what you need to do to balance the budget, yes, you need to, we'd appreciate that direction.
Okay, well, so I'll amend my motion then again. Great idea, Council Member Arias. So $267,000 of the funding will come from the convenience center. The remainder is at your discretion to be taken from the $1.2 million currently being allocated to Beautify Fresno, the remaining balance.
All right.
Beautify Fresno and the convenience center.
Correct, yeah, it's a Beautify District 7.
All right, budget motion 42 was made with those amendments. Any opposition? I'll register opposition. No. All right, City Clerk, did you get that?
Did you say no?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, 43. Let's go with motion to allocate funds to continue current Tower District corridor and neighborhood beautification in the amount of $100K. That was done by Councilwoman Soria. I think you made a clarification on that? Can you read that for
Yes,
the record?
Council President, the clarification was amending to set a hiring criteria to include homeless individuals within the program. And I believe, Councilmember Arias, did you say you only needed 100,000 for Chinatown?
Correct. Councilwoman, I'm trying to help the administration find some savings, so we'll reduce the amount for 100,000. It should be sufficient to cover Chinatown.
So 200,000 to continue the beautification efforts of these two neighborhoods. If we need to allocate a resource, I guess we'd take it from Beautify Fresno. And then,
Yeah,
Then-
you just spent it all. We're moving over to D7.
He's been,
In his previous motion, he's going to,
I thought that there was 1.2 million for.
right, and it has the people and the equipment that we were going to do for that we're going to serve the city. Now we're going to take them and we're going to put them into D7.
Can I get a clarification, Council President? The 1.2 was taken from Beautify Fresno. That 1.2 was for what?
We have 1.2, we currently, in our budget, we have 1.2 million in here for Beautify Fresno to clean the city. There's equipment and people in there to clean litter in the city. Based on the motion I heard, we're now taking that and putting it in D7.
Was that the 1.2? You're not talking about the code. That was something separate.
Yeah, this is our base budget that we have
So,
prepared.
so out of our base budget of cleaning Fresno, 1.2 million was
You're taking roughly 0.2 out of that 1.2.
so we had 1.2 in there, and that 1.2 is now being stripped from that to go to the council districts.
To beautify,
No.
to beautifying the heart of Fresno, inner city, District
To
7.
to
So the way the budget was prepared, Beautify Fresno is currently budgeted at 1.285, something
Right.
like that, citywide.
yep.
Now the plan is take that team and put it in D7.
Well, Mayor, if I may clarify,
Yeah, that's what I'm not clear on.
Councilmember Esparza's initial motion was simply to fund his pilot program. The administration asked us to find the money, to take it from somewhere versus giving the administration flexibility to identify the appropriate sources. So then he amended his motion to take it from Beautify Fresno since it's already in the budget and it's a beautification project. In this current motion of $200,000 for the keep up of Chinatown and Tower District, our question to the administration was, would you like us to also take that from Beautify Fresno or from an existing budget, or give the administration flexibility to find whatever funding source is eligible? For example, we get millions of dollars for the homeless initiatives. We can use those resources to fund garbage pickup that the homeless generate in those neighborhoods. So I would rather give you all the flexibility to find the resources versus taking it from an existing proposal you have.
And also in the past, when we approved HEAP, HEAP was the first. We had allocated 100,000 to do similar stuff, but I don't know if H or whoever was in charge, if that was ever implemented or if there was resources left from HEAP dollars. So our efforts are to continue, and it's in line to what you want to do, Mayor, but we've been very specific to our neighborhoods. So if you want to find another way of getting it done, because we're being particular in terms of how we
Sure.
want to continue some of those investments that we started.
Right.
And obviously they weren't taken into account when you guys put your budget together. So you can see why this council has to make certain types of motions, because that's what ended up happening.
So I guess the question is, was the 1.2, which was for citywide beautification projects, taken to do 1.2 in D7 only, or where's it going to now?
No, it wasn't 1.2.
Mayor,
Because I have the city clerk saying it was D7 only.
No, Mayor, so let me...
Is it D7 only?
Can you clarify,
On the
Vice
motion?
President Esparza?
Yeah, so I need a whiteboard.
So help me understand where that goes and how it goes there.
Yes, correct, Mayor. So here's what happened. The total cost of the D7 pilot program is roughly $470, give or take. We're taking, so you write that number down.
D7 470.
Yeah, that's what the total cost, baseline cost of the D7 pilot project.
Yep.
I want you to subtract minus 267
Yep.
from that, from the convenience center. So from one solid waste effort to another solid waste effort. That leaves a balance of roughly 200,000. It's at the council's, it's at the administration's direct discretion where within that 1.2 million they'd like to derive that 200,000 balance.
So the 267,000 is the balance for D7, and you're saying that you're asking or directing that money be taken from the 1.2 million, which is our overall Beautify Fresno.
The balance is more like 200,000. So the 267 was from the convenience center, right? So we're taking
Yeah.
that, putting it towards this D7 pilot program to be
Which leaves 203 left.
Yeah, so it leaves about 200,000 left to cover. The city manager asked me to identify a source. Instead, take it from the Beautify Fresno dollars existing. The original direction was just to find it within DPU somewhere, but I do believe there is DPU money within the Beautify Fresno budget of 1.2. So we're not taking the whole 1.2 towards District 7.
Gotcha.
What we're doing is taking
203.
203, roughly around there, and reallocating that into Beautify D7, which, yeah, so.
And Councilmember Esparza, on Thursday's agenda is, I want to say 3 or 4 multi-million-dollar contracts related to homeless services. And in those contracts and with those funding sources, the city management can easily find the $200,000 for the pilot there.
Well, and future state monies are going to be allowed for beautification efforts too. So we want to have that flexibility down the road, but I understand the motion now.
Yeah, Mayor, and just for the sake of the conversation going forward, I mean, we've got such a pot of money. I can't believe we're sitting out here arguing about $200,000 over a cleanup program. But I understand these conversations tend to go sideways, but let's focus on the big goal, which is providing services. I know that even within your Beautify Fresno, you've done a lot of work in District 7. They're not mutually exclusive, so I think we're having those conversations where we're saying the same thing, right? But let's just focus on what we need to get through. We're on item 43. Councilwoman Soria, you made that correction. Is there any opposition to budget motion 43?
I'd like to give that flexibility, but again, if we,
Then state that, Councilwoman Soria. We're going to give direction. We're going to give them the flexibility, and that'll be the motion.
perfect.
All right. Any opposition to that? Seeing none, item passes. Let's go with budget motion 44. Motion to add a network system specialist to be created in ISD to service transportation department. I think Councilwoman Soria, you made that motion.
Yeah, I made that motion, and we did say that it would be contingent on getting Wi-Fi on the buses.
All right. Motion was made. Second, any opposition? It passes. Hopefully we can get Wi-Fi. Budget motion 45, purchase 2 trolleys. I think you made a correction for it to come from ARP
Yeah.
funding on it.
If allowable from fax ARPs.
All right,
ARP.
contingent on that. Any
Councilwoman-
opposition?
Councilwoman Soria, I'd like to just make an additional amendment to that it could be from any potential existing pot of funds. So the San Joaquin Air Patrol District, Pollution Control District gives us money, then
Okay,
we can use those.
flexibility.
All right, with that, any opposition? Motion passes. Let's go on to 46, and that was Council Member Maxwell.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I'd like to reiterate my modification and then provide some clarification. So my modification was a motion for Fax Department Administration to update the Transportation Subcommittee every other month regarding the status of the Zero Fare program and progress on obtaining funding towards that goal. And as far as the clarification, I know that the Fax Department is or has worked on some clarifying language. I also have the City Attorney's Office working on some clarifying language that doesn't change the substance of this. After I've had time to review both of those and make some minor modifications when it comes to the wording, I'll submit the final language. But as far as substance, it would just be that addition of the updates every other month.
Okay, with those modifications, any opposition? And none, motion passes. 47, motion 47 to have the CMO provide an update to the council regarding energy efficiency and solar efficiency upgrades at specifically at parks and public safety facilities. I think that was done by Councilmember Carbasi. Is the motion as it stands or any modifications? As it stands?
Have we got the memo?
It's in the pipeline.
Another one in the pipeline.
How long do we think we can get a response to that?
This afternoon.
Okay.
I think we can get that. to
I'll
you.
withdraw the motion.
All right,
you.
motion withdrawn. Number 48, motion to allocate funding, specifically city investment towards solar and efficiency projects for all of parks and public safety facilities for $2 million using ARP funds. That was Councilmember Carbasi.
Yeah, I think the sooner we do these, the better, because there is lead time, and this will actually free up general fund money perpetually. So this is one of those measures we take to free up our general fund.
Councilmember Carbasi, can I ask if we could make sure that we get all our energy efficient projects first? Because then once we get our energy to be efficient, then the solar project makes sense because then you'll really have what the total cost of the energy
Yeah,
that
how-
we need to produce
Yeah.
with these solar projects. I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
it makes
How can
logical
we
sense.
phrase it differently if you want to make an amendment to ensure that, because we definitely have to do those projects too. It's all for the same goal. Do you
Well,
want to
I-
add something to that?
I just want to make sure, I don't know how I would have to frame it, council.
I think it's a great idea.
member, But I think that we really need to push in getting energy efficiency first before we move to solar, if you guys get what I mean.
Councilman-
You guys
Georgiana.
kind of, no, go ahead. Councilmember Maxwell.
One of the added motions that I made earlier, council member, was for a climate action plan, which is a kind of a comprehensive guide to, this is where we need to add solar, this is what we could do to improve transportation. These are kind of the lead improvements you need to make when building and developing houses and businesses. So would you be willing to wait till we have a comprehensive study on something like that before we start placing these or purchasing the infrastructure?
How much time are we talking about? Because I just want to make sure, I think that's a great idea. I just want to make sure for this budget that we have some money locked in, whether it's this solar or something else. Maybe we can alter the motion for both. This money's locked in for that, or this based on council policy.
My understanding is it would take a few
Yeah, it's the
months
hope
for
is
the
out there.
RFP, council member, probably less than a year for the actual study and the results.
I want to do, what's the saying? Porque no los dos. I want to do both. Because I don't want to forego this opportunity right now, especially with ARPA coming out. But I think what you want to do is important as well.
Councilmember, I have one question.
Yep.
Is this contingent on it being eligible for ARP funds?
Well, that's the thing. So we don't know what's going to be allowed with ARPA. So it is one of those things where, yeah, we're hoping it's contingent. So when we have that discussion, it's going to be a part of that. But, I wish we could find general fund money for this because we'll offset it later with the savings. But it's one of those calls we have to make as a body.
All right, so do you want to just take a vote on it?
Why don't we,
What do you want to do?
I haven't spoken to any of the council members yet, so why don't we withdraw for now and then
Okay.
we'll get together, Councilmember Maxwell, and we'll see what we can come up with before we come back on Thursday.
But you're open to having the discussion when ARPA
Oh, yeah.
guideline? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, let's go on to budget motion number 49, and that was Councilmember Carbasi. I think it's just your list of projects. Actually, we already swooped those in with the motion we made earlier, right?
Correct. We had previously approved all the infrastructure projects submitted by council districts.
So, City Attorney, can we just take one vote and include all of those now?
You may.
All right, let's do that, including all of the infrastructure budget projects for each council district. Any opposition? Seeing none, motion passes for all of our infrastructure districts. That'll cut back on some time here. All right, let's go to budget
And
motion.
Council President,
Yes,
my motions were amended.
to include that.
So I'll just
Yep.
make sure that the clerk has it as it's amended.
All right, great. Motion number 50, motion to allocate $1 million toward improvement necessary for neighborhoods and for improvement necessaries for the River West project. That was Councilmember Carbasi.
Yeah, unless any council members have questions, there's a couple of items we've approved regarding park space, and this is going to be, we're a waterfront community. This is going to be huge for the entire city to have access to the river. But after 20 to 30 years, there's been a lot of debate, and we finally have critical mass, and within a couple of years, we're going to have multiple access points. So we want to make sure we have money in place to kind of entice more investment and also to make sure we mitigate any environmental impacts.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is this part of infrastructure, like the ARP, kind of what we just did? Because that's what that's what I did with my project, so I don't know if.
Yeah, we don't know. The problem is with ARPA, we don't know how we can exactly spend infrastructure money. I wanted to allocate general fund money specifically towards this. Is Council President Chavez and I had a press conference about 2 months ago about this because.
What kind of improvements are they
Sure.
that you feel would not be covered? Because that's where I have concern.
Sure.
If it's
Yeah.
ARP, I'm all about supporting it, but
Right.
if it's just strictly general fund, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, so part of the negotiations we made was for a traffic signal. Part of it was to allow parking in the neighborhood, so there's going to be some money spent for that. We don't have a JPA for operations and maintenance yet, but we may be able to partner with the Conservancy and other groups to have benches, maybe possibly the bike lanes on Palm, at least through my district, because that's the last part we want to get done. So it's all of the above. It's basically
Just leave it
committing-
flexible, Councilmember
That's the whole
Karbasi.
point. It's $1 million
Because
towards
Council member?
opening. Yes, sir.
Is that the area that you took me on a tour and you showed me you would like to have the signal light at that?
That's part of it. Yes, sir.
It's going to have to be general fund based on what has been shared with me. I don't know that we're going to have the flexibility with ARPA on those dollars because it involves a traffic signal, which is, even though we're going to split it with the San Joaquin Parkway folks, I don't know. So far, everything he has described, I don't think any of those fall within
Mayor,
the ARPA criteria.
We typically never use general fund dollars for signal lights. We use Measure C or SB1. Why can't those be funding sources for a signal light?
They can be. That's
Yeah, but
the thing the
it
conversation
could be,
had.
but specifically ARP was mentioned, so if it's beyond that, that's different.
And I think you leave it flexible, Councilmember Karbasi, because there's bike lanes, there's traffic signal, there's pedestrian walkways. I don't think you're going to land on one single funding source. for that.
Right.
It's a
We
combination.
want
of-
people to be able to
of that.
bike and walk and do other things.
So,
too.
Councilmember, I just want clarification from my perspective. Are you open to staff finding if it's SB1 dollars or Measure C or anything else, or are you asking for $1 million general fund?
I'm asking for $1 million general fund, and I'll tell you why. Because with the SB1 budget that's coming out, my district's losing money since last week. So I can't rely on that. I am asking for this council to commit $1 million for equitable access for the entire community of that river.
Can we make a contingency that if other available funding becomes present, that we'll defer
Absolutely.
to that instead?
Perfect. ARPA, if SB1 and Measure C, absolutely. Yep.
And by the way, all these expenditures still have to come back to the council with identified funding source and a vote, a subsequent up or down vote.
So with the amendment from Councilmember Maxwell.
All right. Any opposition? None. Motion passes. 51.
Council.
Motion to have staff to provide analysis of what it would look like to form a CFD district in area like D7. I think this is Council Vice President Esparza's motion. I'll let him.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Have we received this memo yet, or there was a lot that came through yesterday?
We are looking.
It's another one.
In any event, I mean, it's not actionable today, so we'll keep it, but we'll await, and we'll look through the memos from yesterday. If not, I'm sure it'll come by tomorrow.
All right, so we'll keep it on the queue. Let's go to motion number 52. I believe this is Vice President Esparza as well.
Yep, I believe we approved this already within the Rebuild
Projects.
Fresno.
All
motion.
right, great. 53. This was actually amended per Councilmember Arias on 6/21. Is that correct, Councilmember Arias? 53?
Correct. It's already been amended and it's been approved.
Okay, let's do item 54. Motion to convert the additional graffiti positions to the 7-week site-wide program. Councilmember Arias?
Motion remains as is.
All right. Any opposition? I'm going to register no, because I need that those graffiti positions, my district.
You said no?
I said no. Yeah. All right. Motion carries. Number 55. This was done by Councilmember Bredefeld, and I think he's actually watching us from where he's at. Motion for DPW Director to evaluate alternative allocations methodology for dollars to be used for infrastructure investment projects by district.
Like to do a roll call vote on this one?
Go ahead, Councilmember Maxwell.
Like to do a roll call vote?
Sure. Let's do a roll call vote on this. City Clerk?
Do.
I think from my reading, he's asking the city staff to come up with an alternative to the complete street ordinances and the methodology that we had previously approved.
I think they landed on that with the conversation that the city manager had, but let's give them a roll call vote.
Well,
on
I
that.
just want to make sure that I clarify my vote. If it's to change what this council has
You're going to
already...
vote no.
Yeah, because if it's going to change what this
me
body
just
has
help.
already agreed to,
Let me just
I do
help
not
you
want
out.
to change it.
On that. All right, roll call, City Clerk?
Councilmember Soria?
No.
Councilmember Karbasi? Absent. Councilmember Arias?
No.
Councilmember Maxwell?
No.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
And Council President Chavez?
No. All right, let's go. Let's go. Wait, we got to give everybody we're done. 56. This was the budget priorities. We incorporated that already. Let's go to 57. Motion to increase council budgets by 0.5 million. Oh, this is Councilmember Arias.
Council President, just for the record, I know our council members are listening in, but we did formally approve his District 6 budget priorities. So that is approved in item 56. 57 remains as is.
Yep, 57 as is. Any opposition? None. Passes. 58. 3 areas needing street maintenance. I think this was Councilwoman Soria's motion, number 58.
Yes, these next 2 motions, 58 and 59, were included in my infrastructure one, so I've consolidated them. We've already voted on
All right,
them.
consolidated for the record. Now we're on to 60. 60 was already included in the motion we made. Let's go on to 60. We clarified 60. C. Actually, no. Let's do that. Start at 60 point C. Or were those included in the motion?
Let's take a vote on them anyway.
Yeah. All right. Let's go 60 point C. That was the clarification I had earlier. The mayor, I think, now understands, and we're on the same page. Any opposition? All right. Passes. Bike patrol for Southeast Kings Canyon Ventura corridor. 2 officers. Any opposition? Passes.
Okay, Council President, does
Yes.
this allocate more officers, or what does this do exactly?
Because I thought the officers were not patrolling right now.
We have officers, but they're on golf carts. He's on a golf. 2 of them are on golf carts in Southeast. They don't have patrols. I don't know if you've seen the golf cart squad. They call them the golf cart
Just to hook them
squad.
up with the bicycle?
So are yours still operating? Because ours were taken away. And so we made a motion earlier to bring back the bike patrol by the fall. Hopefully by then.
Well, when we bring them back, I like to get some on Kings Canyon.
No,
as
that's
well.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So that's why I was wondering
Mhm.
what it was. So you don't have
I
them
don't.
right
I don't. Yep. So that's what this motion would be.
Okay.
I don't think we have any additional officers. I think we just heard how much we're struggling with that.
I would just amend it to include having the mayor on a bike on Kings
No,
Canyon.
I don't want to see that.
How many bicycle officers are you asking for in Kings Canyon?
2, I believe 2 are the ones that patrol out there.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yep. All right, so passes. 61, this was by Councilmember Maxwell. This was his list of projects, I believe.
Yes, I believe both 61 Part A and B have been passed already.
1, A, and B. Let's go on to 62, and that was also by Councilmember Maxwell.
Motion
Was
stands
motion
as
to
is.
eliminate Express Development Team Program. What was that, Councilmember Maxwell?
So I would like to make an amendment to this.
Huh?
So I would like to eliminate the Express Development Team, but I would like to appropriate those added positions and resources for the purpose of expanding planning department's capacity to process any and all permits that come through that department.
I agree to the amendment.
All right, any opposition? I'm going to register a no vote on it. You get that, City Clerk?
So we're leaving the new added positions, but it'll just be for everything, so it increases capacity. Is
That's
that what?
correct, Councilmember.
All right, let's go to item 6. I think the 60, oh, that was the motion to keep the motion. Let's vote. I think we all know how that's going to go. 63, motion to keep Express Development Team, and I don't think my colleague's even here. So with that, any opposition? Or should we do a roll call? Let's do a roll call. I think that'll be easier, City Clerk. 63?
Councilmember Soria?
No.
Councilmember Carbasi is absent. Councilmember Arias?
No.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
And Council President Chavez.
Yes, Lone Ranger. All right, 64, motion to allocate 1.5 for an ongoing housing trust fund. I think you modified that, Council.
That was withdrawn because it was previously approved.
Yeah, I withdrew that since we approved that earlier on already.
Okay, and then next item was motion to add 3.5 million. I think you designated ARP, is that correct?
Yes, designated ARP or any other funding source from state or federal funds.
All right, any opposition? None, passes. 66, that was a motion to allocate $3 million to Clinton Blackstone area parcel for development multifamily housing.
This motion stands as is, and we will be voting a separate item on the Thursday council agenda as well.
Okay, any opposition? None, it passes. 67, the 25 million, I think you modified that as well too, right?
Yes, so same thing, as we bring forth these policies, we wanted to identify 25 million in either ARP funds and/or state or federal funding would go towards these programs that will help spur our market rate and affordable housing stock in Fresno.
All right, any opposition? Seeing none, motion passes. 68, motion for a list of all funding that the city has paid out affordable housing in the last 5 years.
Council
Thank you from
President, the
audience.
information was provided, the motion's withdrawn.
All right, withdrawn. Then 69 was Councilwoman Soria. I believe you had that already addressed, or not?
This one was the Tower District specific plan, and I did modify the amount because we received the memo, I think either yesterday or the day before, of the cost to up to 400,000.
Okay. Any opposition? Or actually, you withdraw it, or you
No, I amended it.
amended it?
Yeah, because I
Okay.
had it, first it was 250, but we got the actual total amount. It would take up to 400,000 to do the Tower District specific plan.
Okay, any opposition? Passes. 70, motion for 200,000. I think Councilmember Maxwell, you modified that?
That's correct, Council President. I'd like to amend it to allocate up to $500,000 for this project.
1,000, all right. Any opposition? Motion passes. All right, and then 71 is motion for staff to look for retail space for Economic Development Office. I think Councilmember Carbasi made that motion.
Could we also consider city-owned facilities?
Yeah, council
I think
member,
we had that in there.
I'd like to amend it to consider city-owned facilities. I mean, we've been expanding, acquiring new office space across the city, including most recently the Fresno B building. So I'd like us to start with that. We also have the old Met building that's still, I think, half empty. So before we start leasing out, I'd like to have staff evaluate the existing space we have.
City Attorney, just procedurally, the maker of the motion is not here, but I seconded it. Can I agree to the amendments, or does the maker of the motion have to agree to the amendments?
Well, as long as you have two council members here that are agreeing to hear the motion, then you can.
I can accept, okay.
Yes.
We'll accept those amendments. All right, incorporate that. Any opposition? None, it passes. 72, which is a motion to allocate $150,000 to augment the budget for ICSC travel and conference. I think I seconded as well. Any opposition?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to reduce that amount to $75,000,
75,000?
half of the amount.
Yeah, I'm open to hearing what the.
Oh, now you guys are penny pinching?
Yeah, there we go.
Is that 75,000 is going to burn a hole in our pocket, guys?
What are we using 150,000?
No, it's not to set up a booth. It's actually to set up meetings and do follow-ups and bring folks here and have that capacity for our economic development team to do the work. They didn't. That was the challenge that we had. The city of Fresno has never had a presence at ICSC, and then you also have to pay membership dues, and there's a process for that.
Council President?
Yes.
We have had a presence at ICSC. Under the RDA, there were a number of trips made, and Lupe actually ran those trips for us.
When was this?
In the good old days. When we had an RDA. You remember those days, right?
So I did see in the budget there was an allocation, but so is that separate? Can anyone speak to
You know
that?
what? For the sake of the conversation, let's go with 75. If we need more, we'll come back
There you
and do
go.
some more. So I'll agree to that. Let's not get into the penny. Trust me, we're going to come back and have another conversation about this, but I'm just flagging it for you guys.
Council, we're just trying to save the city manager some money.
Sure you are. All right, with the 75K for the penny pension effort here, any opposition? Motion passes. All right, motion to expand the facade program.
This one is going to be considered as the ARP, so that we're saving money.
All right, any opposition? And none, passes. 74, motion to allocate 190K for 2 positions in motion number 5. This was what Councilmember Carbasi was talking about. So with that, is there any opposition?
Take a roll call vote.
All right, roll call vote, City Clerk?
We didn't need the funding according to,
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Soria?
no.
Councilmember Arias?
No.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
And Council President Chavez?
Yes. All
Only
right.
5 members for budget. This feels like 2019.
All right, 75, motion to add 2 human resource analysts in PSD. All right. What was that?
Personnel services.
Personnel services. It'd be helpful if the maker of the motion was here to explain it, but
Council President, I'd like to amend this to make it one human resource analyst.
all right, we're amending it to 1.
And council, don't forget, one of these was for risk for special events.
Risk special events. That
What was this administration request?
That was separate? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, any opposition to that?
The question was asked, was this an administration request? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
And it was because of the amount of hiring that's going to be done over the course of the next year between police officers, firefighters, filling a lot of the vacancies that we have. And that was the reason the new Director of Personnel, T.J. Miller, felt that this was going to be absolute necessary to hire all those positions. So that was the reason.
Mayor, let it go. We're gonna come back and we're gonna get to where we need to get to. I'm just letting my colleagues go through the motions right now.
Are these positions funded through general fund or are they reimbursable? Because you know how sometimes we, like ISD, we charge the departments that utilize the services. How do we fund these positions?
It is an internal service fund, so correct. It would be adding, it would not be, well, theoretically, the general fund departments who utilize the service, their ISF charge would increase. So the costs are spread.
But for example, so you're saying police is going to need it, fire is going to need it. Is the cost of covering these positions included in the budget that you guys proposed?
Not currently.
Yeah, these costs are not built into the ISF charges, so we'd be adding this 190.
So then this will go to like police, fire?
Yeah, once you add the positions and the funding, then we will then allocate those costs out to each of the departments. But we need additional general fund funding to pay for these 2 positions.
City Manager, if this is an administration request, how come it didn't make it into your proposed budget?
So that we, as we came to you.
But Councilmember Carbasi decided to reaffirm the established budget.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what happened.
We had a new department director, so the proposed budget was prepared by the previous personnel director. The new department director came in and looked at all the hiring that was going to be needed and looked at the current staffing levels and came to us and said, I'm not sure I'll be able to get all of this hiring done as quickly as you all want with the current staffing levels. So that's where the request came from.
All right, well, let's go with the original motion, two human resources analysts in PSD and see where we're at. Let's do a roll call vote on that. City Clerk?
Councilmember Soria?
2.
2. Leaving it as is?
Yeah, the vote is on the actual motion.
On the actual motion, so 2 positions.
Correct. Then we do an alternative motion.
All right.
Okay, that was a no from Councilmember Soria.
Right.
Councilmember Arias?
No.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
And Council President Chavez?
Yes.
Council
All right,
President, I'll make a
doesn't
motion
pass.
to authorize 1 additional position for the personnel department
All right.
to be allocated as they wish.
All right, is there any opposition on the new motion of 1 PSD? Seeing none, passes. Let's go to
I'm
76.
sorry, I missed the second. Who seconded
second.
that? Thank you.
Motion passes. Go to 76. A motion for 1 new position, motion number 5, known as the Blackstone Czar.
Yes, so this is cost neutral. This goes with the motion from Councilmember Carbasi at the very beginning, just allocating, ensuring that one of those 2 positions in economic development will be effectively the Blackstone equivalent of what the downtown czar is doing.
And this is 1 full-time position.
Yes, we're designating a position that we approved earlier already.
So which position was that, Councilmember?
It's one of the two economic development coordinators that we voted on at the very beginning.
So one of them would be the Blackstone czar.
That's correct.
That was the Dan Zach of Blackstone, I think
That's
we were
correct.
terminating. All right. Any opposition? And none. Passes. 77, City Clerk. Motion to add information technology software, hardware service agreements to general fund in case ARP funding is not available.
Council President, I'd like to withdraw my second on this motion.
All right. No second, so it gets withdrawn. And now we are on 78. We're almost there, guys. This is to approve items on the CAO consideration list. I think this was Councilmember Bredefeld's motion as outlined in the budget on slide 13, totaling 2.9 million, and reserve the right to add the subsequent list of other requested items. The list is to be separated by one-time and ongoing costs. Is there any opposition to that? Seeing none, passes. 79, motion number 79 is motion to fund 8th Street Warehouse Vendor Commercial Kitchen in the amount of $5 million. Councilman Radias?
Councilmember President, this motion is withdrawn, and that project is included in my infrastructure neighborhood improvement plan.
All right, withdrawn and included in there. Item number 80, motion to allow administration to have the flexibility to find the resources for code enforcement resource team. I made that motion. I think it was seconded by Councilmember Carbasi. Any opposition?
Roll call.
Roll call. Let's do a roll call, City Clerk.
Councilmember Soria?
No.
Councilmember Arias?
No.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
And Council President Chavez?
Yes. All right, that was a 4.
Council President?
Oh,
I just want to clarify that by action on that motion, that the council's intent is to remove any code enforcement staffing for the administration?
No, it was to, the motion was to allow the administration to add additional code enforcement
And that failed.
officers.
That failed. So
failed.
by the previous motion where you kept all of the code enforcement resources in the city attorney's office, and by this motion failing, the administration will have no code enforcement?
Assistant City Manager, from my perspective, the one-page, $3.5 million general fund proposal that you guys provided us a couple of days ago, this just isn't sufficient. So I'm open to the conversations as we go through the budget process. I just don't think this is sufficient to approve a $3.5 million ongoing expenditure of the general fund.
We're also open to the conversation in post-budget process about simply allocating some of the code resources, partnering with the administration to fulfill those efforts.
Yeah, so for the time being, that stands. We will revisit this conversation. I guarantee you we're going to revisit this conversation.
Thank you.
All right, number 81, motion office space be used by council. Oh, that was Councilmember Carbasi's motion. I'm going to withdraw my second on this one because I think that point will be moved by the next ones. So let's go number 82, add 50K to the council president's office. That was made by myself, seconded by Vice President Esparza. Any opposition? Motion passes. 83, motion to change the baseline budget to 550K. That was Vice President Esparza. I think that was your motion.
Motion stands. Let's vote.
All right. Motion. Any opposition? Seeing none. Motion passes. I believe 84 was already incorporated. Councilwoman Soria, this was your D1 priorities, correct?
Amended and included, yes.
Amended. All right. Number 85, motion to direct staff to explore the purchase of the UMC campus property. That was Council Vice President Esparza. Maxwell, I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Number 85.
85. So I do believe the administration has fulfilled this memo. I think in partnership either with the CEO, I forget
Council,
exactly.
with the recusal, Council President should step out if there's going to be a discussion.
I'll step
We'll
out.
give Council President a second to step on out. I think he's gone. I think we can rename Kings Canyon Boulevard now. Yeah, so what I'm looking for from council is consensus. The administration, I think, in partnership with the CAO, did send over a memo I think the city manager is open to the conversation about the purchase. Obviously, the way the budget is going, this would be with ARP funds if we decided that we were going to pursue the purchase. So I think next step is probably a closed session, but they have fulfilled the request.
Council Vice President, I would just ask that you remain open to other housing pots of funds that we have.
Yes.
We have some now and future ones coming. So as long as we make it available to any available funds that could be used.
Yes, and this is with respect to the UMC campus at the corner of Kings Canyon and Cedar. So we'll go ahead and just say yes to this since it has been provided. Any opposition? All right, motion passes. Let's go get Council President, bring it back in.
All right, we are on 86. Or did we finish?
No, go ahead.
No, we wouldn't do a fast one on you.
All right. Motion to allocate 25K for a park lit design in D7. I think this was Vice President Sparks' motion. Any opposition? And none. It passes. 87, add $5 million to general fund to DPW to close the gap on SB1 fund. I think it's amended. Councilmember Arias?
Yes, the amendment is to identify any available funds, including ARP funds, to increase the public works budget for neighborhood improvements.
Right, and that was actually codified earlier. So any opposition? And none, it passes. 88, I believe we took care of this, Councilwoman Soria, with a resolution, or is this the appropriation?
Yeah, do we
Go ahead.
need to, I just want to get clarification with the administration. Do we need to pass this again, or what we passed last Thursday is sufficient direction so that either Measure P or whatever funding to fund swim
Correct.
lessons?
We're acting on your resolution from last week.
So we don't, so I can withdraw this?
Yes, that would be appropriate, I would guess, because we have
Okay.
moved forward on funding this and doing
Okay,
this, yeah.
Perfect.
All right, item is withdrawn. Let's go to 89. This is a motion for.
Council President, I'm
yes.
sorry, before you go there, on A7, I want to be clear. That motion did not include specifically setting aside $1 million for D7.
Correct.
So that was not included as part of the motion.
Correct. 88, we already did withdrawn. 89, motion to move ongoing temps from ARPA to listed general fund, 600,000. Why would we do that? All right.
Roll call.
Roll call vote on that one?
I think we just leave them in ARPA.
So a vote no, to leave it as is, right?
You all vote
As
no.
is.
Before we vote, can I hear from the administration? Is this a request from the administration?
No, this is Councilmember Carbasi.
Okay.
It was a request from the administration. Tommy, do you want to?
Yeah, it was on our Monday list, last page, where we listed all of the, do the reserve, do the employee salaries, it had that long.
Why would
list.
we move those folks from ARPA to general fund if we're trying to say?
So we were looking to build the budget. When we were building our budget, there were some temporary employees that don't incur long-term benefits and retirement. So we had pushed some of those to ARP about $600,000.
What, just the reason they were moved from ARPA to general fund, because those are rollover each year to the general fund, and that was the purpose, to keep them in the general fund.
Can we
your
do them
call.
after this year? Because since we're barely trying to balance the general fund, I think if we do it this year with the ARPA and then the following years you guys budget them in, that's probably,
The answer is yes.
I think that's the way that we should go.
All right. Then, well, I think we still have to vote. So let's do a roll call vote on this, City Clerk.
Councilmember Soria? No. Councilmember Carbasi?
I'm going to abstain from this one.
Councilmember Arias?
No.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
And Council President Chavez?
No. All right, let's do number 90, motion to move the fire department reimburse drill school expenses and third drill school from ARPA list 3.1. I think that's Councilmember Carbasi's motion.
And again, this was part of our initial list on last Monday. We have pushed these to ARP under the public safety allocations that are available in there. And our recommendation was, our proposal was with the additional 20.3 million, maybe we can pull that back into the general fund and free up the ARPA for other funding later. So that was our proposal that we presented last Monday.
So, Councilmember Carbasi?
No, I have no comment. I'm ready to move forward with this item.
So I do have a question. By approving this motion, we're basically impacting the general fund, right?
Yeah, and again, the way we had presented to you last Monday was we identified the additional 20.3, 20.8, and we had identified some opportunities that we might. This was one of the items that we had identified, but definitely a general fund impact, for sure.
Just so you know, City Manager, I'm a little hesitant right now to approve this until we get an accounting of all the adjustments we've made today and see what the general fund looks like. So
We can
for
always
now-
hold off.
Yeah, if you prefer to hold off for now, I'm a no. But if you prefer to hold off.
Yeah, we can hold off. I mean, yeah.
My comment, kind of similar to what we did earlier, if we could, so we know we're going to have 20 million more, probably even next year, built in already to the budget. What my suggestion is, keep it with ARPA this first year, and then if you want to continue to fund it ongoing, build it into your next budget. I think it gives us the flexibility to fund some of the other general fund priorities that the council has that were not included in this budget.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just hold off. I mean, I think this is going to be key to the public safety apparatus, and if, we can always put in there that if ARPA funds become available later, we can always look at that, but let's just hold off.
All right, let's
Get more
withhold
information.
on that item and wrap up here.
And I just did want to clarify, I apologize, I know you want to go, keep going. The 20.3 million we identified on the Monday was combination of FY22 sales tax increase and a forecast of so it's 2 years of sales tax increase.
Right. Yep. 91, motion to fund employee compensation equity adjustments for 6.6 million out of general fund. But what was that motion, Councilmember Carbasi? All right.
Yep, same thing. This is a proposal we had presented on Monday the 14th with the list of
This was the
proposals.
bonuses for employees,
Yeah.
correct?
No, this was actually pay increases.
Pay increases for employees.
Right. The way we built the budget prior to getting the revised sales tax was we were proposing one-time payment to all employees, approximately 6%, not knowing the revenues. And then once we saw the revenues come in, we thought, this is maybe an opportunity to actually increase salaries versus a one-time bonus. So that was our proposal last Monday.
And City Manager, from my perspective, in accordance to the Labor Management Act, we're supposed to get a 5-year projection of what those salary adjustments would reflect on the overall budget. So for me, I haven't seen a 5-year projection, so I'd rather do this in a labor negotiation process that we normally follow.
Oh, granted.
All right, so we have that motion. Let's do a roll call vote on 91. City Clerk?
Councilmember Soria?
No.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Yes.
Councilmember Arias?
No.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Nay.
Council Vice President Esparza?
Nay.
And Council President Chavez?
Yes. All right, motion does not pass. 92, that's a motion to allocate 250 to establish a legislative intern program in council. Councilmember Arias, you had this one? Does it
Correct.
stand?
There's an adjustment to 350,000.
1,000. So with that adjustment, any opposition? None. Passes. Oh,
Sorry.
Councilmember Carbasi?
Just question, how is it being allocated, the 350? I mean, what's the scope of the program, and where's it going to go? Because we already have an internship program, but it doesn't have very small stipend.
Correct. So this came from conversations this year with our assistant city manager, Georgianne White. As you know, we had a citywide kind of program that we can all utilize. And a recommendation was to set one aside for the council specifically with dedicated money, and then let staff continue to expand the other program, especially since Measure P does include workforce development and employment opportunities. So we haven't designed it yet, but my perspective is it would match the current structure of the existing program.
Okay. I think that was the one where we got matching funds, I think, from workforce. So is there any funds left in that pot at all?
No.
Okay. That's been depleted. And then how is it going to be divided among the council?
None of that has been decided, so we would bring forward a design and a proposal to the body, and then the body would approve it. So,
Would you be open to a friendly amendment that we will divide it 7 ways, and the council members can choose to if they want to have, like, I haven't introduced an employee now.
Yeah.
Would you be open to that or some kind of formula there?
I'm open to anything, but if we just sit down and design it, just not, I don't want to put limitations or specificity now.
Right.
If the council approves the allocation, we'll come back and work with any office.
Okay. It'll come back to the council and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, unfortunately, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just
right.
clarification, the citywide intern program is currently in the Parks Department at $100,000, and the intent of, per Councilmember Soria's original vision, was for those employees to be able to obtain jobs at the end of their internship. So that is at $100,000. And agreed, we did have conversation about making sure that there was designation about how that $100,000 in parks, we intend to use it for citywide job opportunities for youth in our community, and if the council chose to move forward with something specifically for their office, that a motion would have to be made, although, we never specifically talked about amounts, but.
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah,
and if you remind me too, under Measure P, there's a ton of set aside for workforce development and opportunities. So I'm assuming the Parks Department is going to have to significantly increase that program and, update whatever criteria Measure P calls for. But that's going to be a pretty significant program too.
And just to clarify, it was $100,000 for general fund from the city, and we got a matching grant from Workforce Development Board. It took us about 3 years to finalize that agreement. So that, again, goes to the implementation phase of, whoever was in charge at the time. But we hadn't implemented it, so we barely, I think, a couple weeks ago, finalized that agreement. So we do have an additional $200,000. But the expectation, at least from me, is that because I did support Measure P, and I know that Measure P was very intentional about ensuring that there was ongoing dollars for investment in youth jobs, that $100,000 actually becomes tenfold, if not more, so that we're hiring more kids or giving kids more of an opportunity in all the various departments. I will say that this legislative internship, which now, and we didn't talk about amount. You and I also had a conversation, but you kind of suggested in terms of, hey, maybe the council should have their own carved out so that you guys have your own bucket. And I do believe that this is an important internship program because it provides young people the opportunity. They're not just answering phones, they're doing constituent work, they're out in the community. And many of them actually, either we've hired them as permanent staff or temporary permanent staff, and we've also seen some of our young people go on to other departments. So I think they're valuable.
Follow-up question, Councilmember Arias, why the $100,000 increase? There was just a calculation made based on the program.
We looked at what's been spent on average by the council, so
Okay.
350 is more of the average.
My only hesitation, I think there's we have a lot more information to get. I'll support it, but my only hesitation is this when you come back, is to make sure we all have a certain budget within our council offices, staying within that, not using this as saying, well, this is a pot of money and we're just going to use it to hire more staff.
Yeah, I know. I think we all agree that it should not be for Councilwoman Sawyer to hire, 10 more people by herself. So.
Okay.
I wouldn't be talking, but
I don't
okay.
think anybody needs. Anyway, all right, so with that clarification and questions answered, I don't think there's any opposition. Passes. 93, motion number 93. I think Councilmember Maxwell, you withdrew that, or?
Correct.
Withdrew that. 94, planning and development. This was made by Councilmember Arias. Allocate $100,000 for the implementation of the housing element. Mobile home park program. Do you still want the vote on that?
Correct.
All right, so with that, let's take a vote. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. And I believe 95 was withdrawn, Vice President? It was the cybersecurity analyst, I believe.
That was not withdrawn. That was
Withdrawn? So it
no,
stands?
We're voting on that as it stands.
All right, to hire additional cybersecurity analysts for $98,000. They're very good, by the way. All right, any opposition? Seeing none, motion carries. All right, that concludes our long list. City Clerk, if you could
Council
compile that
President,
list.
What about the added?
Oh, we had, what were the added motions that we had recently?
There were several from different folks.
All right, why don't we go down the road? Councilmember Maxwell, why don't you start us off with your additionals? We can
The
vote on
first
those.
one was a motion to appropriate $500,000 for the acquisition of El Dorado Park.
Okay, let's do that. And then you had a second, I think it was Vice President Esparza, correct?
I had Councilmember Soria.
Or Councilwoman Soria. All right, so with that, let's take a vote on that. Any opposition? Motion passes. Next one.
Second motion was to give administration the flexibility to reallocate the $100,000 appropriated for the misters at El Dorado Park to go towards the acquisition of El Dorado Park.
All right, and who was the second on that one, City Clerk?
I had Councilmember Soria.
All right, so with that, any opposition? Motion passes. All right, next one.
This was a motion to reallocate the $1 million set aside for large park improvements towards the design and construction of a Class 4 bike lane along Barstow Avenue between Blackstone and Jackson.
Okay, who was the second on that?
Are you reading them in the same order that you gave them this morning?
I don't remember if it's the same.
I don't think you're reading them in the same order.
It may not.
No?
Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, Councilmember Carbasi seconded that motion. Any opposition? Motion passes. All right, next one.
This was a motion to allocate $400,000 towards a citywide climate action plan and to apply for any available outside funding for the review and implementation of said plan.
This was seconded by Council President.
All right, so with that, any opposition? Motion passes. Next.
So this one, I don't know if it's necessary. City Attorney's Office, I think we passed the motion to add additional funds to your office, which would cover the eviction protection program. Is that correct?
Well, I think there were two components to that. The city manager identified $750,000 that's available now through the end of December, and then I believe after that we would have sufficient funds in our budget to complete the rest of the fiscal
So do I
year.
need to make an additional motion?
I
as
don't
is?
think this motion is necessary.
Okay, so then I withdraw that previous motion.
All right, next one.
This was a motion. One second, Council President. A motion to appropriate the necessary amount to satisfy the Granite Park deal, condition on council's approval on Thursday.
All right.
City
let-
Attorney,
let's
I
let,
think I need to
Councilwoman
recuse myself on
recuse
this,
herself.
so
That's
I will
correct.
be stepping out.
All right, let's give Councilwoman Soria a minute to recuse herself.
And I have Council Vice President as a second.
All right, motion made, seconded by Vice President Esparza. Any opposition? No, motion passes. All right, next one.
That was it
Get
for me.
Councilmember Soria back.
Yep.
Oh,
we can
hang
bring
on.
back Councilwoman Soria. Councilmember Arias or Vice President Esparza, did you guys have any? I think it was just Councilwoman Soria that had. Yeah, what? Go ahead. While she comes back, Vice President.
Yeah, so the additional motion I had made was a motion to allocate 1/4 of an FTE within the parking division to enforcement in parking District 10, the VA
All right.
neighborhood.
And who was the second on that?
What was
I couldn't hear him.
Where do you want that? It's
Just
a quarter FTE? That's what I'm going
Speak a little louder, Vice President.
So this is, let me put this on my lips, I guess. These mics, motion for new mics. So the motion is to allocate 1/4 of an FTE within the parking division towards parking enforcement in parking district number 10, the VA neighborhood. So roughly, well, not roughly, it would be equivalent to 10 hours per week at minimum.
Okay.
So out of the existing team, so
Correct.
no increase.
Correct. This is a cost neutral motion, no increase. Just asking for a baseline floor of enforcement within that neighborhood. So I think it's the largest parking district in the city, I believe.
Okay. All right, and who was the second on that one, Vice President?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Arias. Any opposition? None, motion passes. All right, that concludes your motions. Councilwoman Soria, you had some,
We had one motion,
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman, on workman's comp.
That's right. That was the latest
Yeah.
motion, which was to reduce the allocation for 2021, given the fact that there was a specific workers' comp fraud unit created. So my goal is to see that that money doesn't escalate so high. So would be saving 1.4 million going back to the general fund.
okay, so can you codify that in the way of a motion so we can
The motion is to reduce the line item for workman's compensation by the tune of 1.4 million for fiscal year 2021.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, so it's a perspective thing, right? It's like we're going to hire the investigators, we're going to reduce our costs, but if we don't and we got to pay out the claims, that's the only thing I've got. So I'm wondering if it's a motion to go ahead and do the investigators, and any savings generated, then you do something with it. I just don't want to hope that we get the savings and then we don't. We're paying out all these claims.
City manager.
So I determined that by seeing how it has escalated over the last 2 years. So it's been 600,000 actual for the last 2 years. So I said we go back to 2020, add the 600,000 like we've done in the past. And I think if we need more, then it should be a conversation that the council has so that we get an update as to why this unit isn't working,
So
the workers' comp unit.
in
How
short,
do we
City
know the
Manager-
cost will go down, though?
In short, City Manager, staff increased the workman's comp line item by 2 million when the historical trends demonstrates a $600,000 increase a year versus a $2 million increase. So we're simply honoring last year and the year before's increase as projected by past expenses.
I totally understand. It's just the way they do the workman's comp. It's kind of an actuarial calculation based on historical trends. And so if they if we could hold on, let us just see where the 2 million came from, and just if the actuarials,
That's fine.
if that's based on that. Let me just confirm that. I understand totally what you want to do. It makes sense to me. Let's get this number down
So,
because we're going to intervene.
Councilwoman, are you good with just pausing on the motion and letting staff give us the information? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, was that the last motion, or do we still have motion? What, Councilman Carbasi?
You have something for 100,000 partnership for Southeast.
Last motion.
While he clarifies, I believe we forgot my $6 million motion. The motion to allocate $6 million in ARP revenue, general fund revenue replacement towards this FY22 budget.
Second.
We forgot to vote on that one.
That was the revenue replacement. Well,
So I just want to just
call that.
clarify, we've looked at a couple of data points on the revenue replacement. So the one number we're looking at is you look at your 17, 18, 19 data, and what does that look like? Historically, at City of Fresno, our revenues, I'm just thinking about the general fund revenues now, because we got to count all revenues. We have to count all revenues. We usually grow 5-6% in that range. If you look at just the general fund, 2019 is the base year you have to look at. If you look at our general fund number for 2019, and you look at 2021, that jump is 13%. The administrative number, the base number we could get from the feds is 4.1. So if we're already growing at 13.1, and the state and the feds say, well, if you can't get data, you can use 4. We're looking at historical data. It looks like 5s and 6s. We might not qualify for it. I just want to just caution that if we're thinking there's revenue replacement numbers, are based the way the math's looking right now, it might be a challenge. I just would want to not get caught overextending on what that number might be, and then we come back and say,
Sure, yeah. So the 20 estimate we had was way off base. Now we've kind of gotten the more accurate picture, about 4.1. So I'll revise my motion to 4.1 million instead of 6.
Or the 1%,
4.1%.
Oh, percent.
Yeah, you can use your historical growth rate, or you can, and then if you don't have any good historical data, then you can use 4.1 as a default.
So what is the administration's best estimate at this point of what?
Honestly, it's 0 because we grew at 13. Historically, we've grown at 5s and 6s, and the state and the feds are giving it 4, and yet our number's 13. We're going to look at that and go, they're going to look at it and go, you don't need revenue replacement. You guys are growing pretty good. So that's the concern. We've been looking at the math rates, and I was like, my gosh, we might qualify for 0.
City Manager, can we simply amend the motion to say, 6 million or whatever, is eligible based on the formula?
Well, I think we could say it that way, or maximum allowable based on the calculation. Yeah, because we want to take every dollar we can get in revenue replacement, but right now it looks like
So, Council Vice President, will you amend your motion that the budget will reflect a revenue replacement from ARPS to the maximum level allowed under the rules.
I will accept the amendment. We've come a long way from 20, we thought we were going to get 20 million, but we're down to very little now.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So it's the maximum, so it could be more potentially. If it's beyond a certain number, would you make an amendment then to add money to the reserves? No, hold on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no.
Okay.
I mean, is reserves an eligible expense within ARP already? No?
But we can go, well, we're doing the whole rob Peter to pay Paul, so we can always use some of that money for something in general fund that's allowed, and then.
I see. Well, I mean, six is pretty.
Council, let's focus on the motion
Okay,
that we
all
have
right.
at hand here.
Yeah, no,
So,
yeah,
Vice
six-
President?
6 is already, from what the administration is telling us at this point with the most revised numbers, 6 is already a bit of a stretch. So max, I mean, I don't see us going above that. I hope we do. I mean, I really hope it's allowed.
We want to max out that totally, but we just been running the preliminary numbers, trying it this way, trying it this way. It's like, darn, that the jump we've seen, the numbers we gave you last Monday saying, hey, life's pretty good on the sales tax and these other ones, that's a great thing for us, not so great with our, with that revenue replacement number.
So what would be the motion, Vice President?
The motion would include the amendment from Councilmember Arias.
All right.
The motion simply states that the city staff is to project the maximum allowable revenue replacement under the ARP funds.
All
For
right.
the fiscal year 21.
Motion was made, seconded. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. Was that the last motion? All right. Okay, let's take a quick lunch break. We'll be back at 1:30. Let's compile that list and start working off the new cheat sheet. Thank you. All right, council. I think we've got a couple folks that are now online. Brianna, our video's up, Zoom's up, YouTube's up, everything's working? All right, so with that, we are now back in session. It is now 2:13. Continuing our budget hearings. For the benefit of the public, council went through the original first list and voted on a number of motions. We had the administration crunch some preliminary numbers. So either city manager or assistant city manager, you want to kind of give a brief summary of what those numbers are and what the gap is for, I think the number amount is 4.9 or so. And then there'll be some motions on the council side.
So we added up all of the motions and the impacts to the general fund based on what we saw, the comments, and so we got $24.8 million that we have added to the budget. But if you look at the $20 million that we had in additional sales tax and the cannabis revenue, that then leaves us a general fund whole of about $3 million. And so we would look to work with the leadership, council chair's office, to try and figure out how do we want to, the different ways we might be able to close this this gap. And then we also would like some consideration for some of the other items that weren't considered as part of this process, and so we'd like to have that discussion with the council president about how we might do that and cover this whole thing. But with all of those things, you're right, it's about $5 million we're looking
Council
at.
President?
We would do that. Yes, Councilmember Arias.
Can I make a motion?
Sure, let's make
The
that.
motion is to direct the council leadership to meet with the administration to identify and address the gap in the general fund and to address the administration's request related to code enforcement, the graffiti team, and the council's requests around CSOs and CSIs.
And I think Councilmember Maxwell had a request. I think we wanted to get a split of 15 CSOs and 5 CSIs. Is that correct?
That's correct, Council President.
All right, if we could reflect that, and then getting the mayor's code enforcement team, the plan that they submitted, I think it was 3.5, the dollar amount. And
And
then
I'll
obviously, and then have the graffiti team also be part of the conversation. I think it was 3 teams, city manager?
3 teams, correct.
Mayor, is that?
One team funded by Caltrans.
Right. Yeah, three crews, 3 individuals. One of those is going to be funded by Caltrans for the freeways.
Okay.
Council
All
President?
right. Yes.
Just for the record, I know that we were given a quick update on the motions that were passed. On my motion 84, the the list that is currently there was not replaced with the most current version. It doesn't impact the general fund. This is all the ARPA infrastructure, but I just want to make sure that my chief of staff has sent an email or will be sending an email shortly again with that language of the list of the projects that would go to be that bigger list.
All right, let the record show. So with that clarification on that? 84, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the motion that Councilmember Arias did, I will second that. City Clerk, did you capture, were you able to capture that? Brianna, were you able to capture the original motion?
Let's do it later. The motion for the record is to direct the council leadership to meet with the administration to identify the gap in the general fund and to address the administration's request related to code, graffiti, and the council's request related to CSOs and CSIs.
Oh, sorry, okay. Councilmember Maxwell, all right.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Clarifying, so it'll be you and the Vice President meeting council?
Correct.
And that information will be held until we come back out here in public and discuss it as a body, is that correct?
Which information?
Whatever agreement is reached to be able to fix that gap. I just want to make sure.
We have that here. We can provide you a copy
Okay.
if you want that. No, it's not a problem. We can get that, well, I don't know if they can see that on camera. All right, so with that, the motion was made, clarification of Councilmember Soria, and the motion made by Councilmember Arias and Councilmember Maxwell. Any opposition?
No, and council, I just want to clarify that with the goal of getting a resolution by Thursday so we can adopt the budget.
All right, any opposition? Motion carries. With that, are there any other clarification motions or any corrections that council wishes to make or administration?
I just
You have one?
just for
Mayor?
my clarification, I believe I followed it, but I want to just make sure. We'll be working towards restoring the code at 3.5. We're working with the council.
Correct.
Council leadership. The funding for the 3 graffiti crews will be working together to restore that funding. And then the CSOs, instead of having 20 CSOs,
There was
we'll
an
have-
amendment there.
The amendment is to add 15 CSOs on top of the 10 we already had, plus 5 CSI.
CSIs, correct.
Okay.
All right.
And to close the general fund gap.
And we will close that gap by Thursday.
And leave all our projects alone.
But by tomorrow.
Let's not go too far.
All right, any other clarifications by council?
Yep.
All right. Oh, Councilmember Carbasi. One more thing.
Just for the record, motion number 48 was held, not withdrawn. So there are still a couple of motions that, as you meet with administration, please keep those, especially the one regarding energy savings. First, we start with, of course, efficiency, and then move on to solar and other things too. But please include that because that'll help save money in the future.
Yeah, I believe you were waiting to receive some information on that.
Yeah,
Councilmember Carbasi, right?
47,
Or
we're waiting,
48.
so we withdrew that one.
Okay.
No worries on there. That one, I think we agreed to hold off because Councilmember Maxwell and I need to talk first about
Right.
the program he wants to put together.
If you want to send those to me, we can
Sure.
put them on the queue
Okay.
to hash out.
And then we didn't vote on the very last one. Sorry, it should be 93, I think.
Let's see here.
Oh, I'm sorry, this changed a little bit. 104. It's planning and development. I'm not sure if it's going to be the planning and development, though. Basically, it's a pilot program similar to what Washington, D.C. has. It's a doorbell security camera pilot program where we will provide a rebate program. This is going to be targeted to areas that don't have it. So Northwest District, north of Shaw, is pretty much covered, but it's part of that district. And then, of course, the other districts, Central, Southwest, Southeast. There's still a lot we have to work out, but I just wanted to allocate some money towards that now as we're trying to partner with a couple of different companies. Maybe they'll give us a discount.
So this is a Ring doorbells?
25,000.
It depends if they're willing to work with
Oh, I
us.
see.
I know we've engaged with them already,
Okay.
but if not, it'll be open to any company.
Was that 25,000, Mike?
Well, it was originally 100,000.
What is it now?
It's 100,000 originally.
Okay,
That's what it
100,000.
is.
So that's 100,000.
Yeah.
For-
And we may not need it all at once. We can wait over time. It's going to be something we roll out as a pilot. So just to be flexible, that's just a heads up.
All right, motion was made by Councilmember Carbasi, I think seconded by Councilmember Maxwell. Any opposition? And none, it passes. We'll add that to the dollar amount. All right, any other motions, clarifications?
Council President?
Yes.
Just clarification again from Henry. I know that you're pumping out memorandums left and right. Any sort of clarification we could get on some of the memos I've asked for, just been like a job description for an ATP coordinator, and I don't think I've even received that one yet. So is that one out? Okay. Well, for the remainder, Henry, do we have some ideas? It can be by the end of today, sometime tomorrow.
Yeah, that's our goal, is trying to get to you at ASAP. And so,
Henry, can you
just
do me can you do me a favor? Can you just have somebody on your staff prepare a list of everything that we have published?
Sure.
And everything's still kind of waiting, and then we can get that out to everybody so they can just say, okay, these are the ones we should have, and they can look through their emails and say, oh, I got it or don't got it. These are the ones we're still waiting, because I don't want you guys looking for things that haven't shown up yet, so let's just...
Yeah, I have a reconciliation, and then I can get you that this afternoon.
Thank
so
you
can
both.
all see the status of where all the directions are at.
Thank you.
All right, and for the benefit of the public, we didn't take public comment today because this was a continuation of the original hearings we had last week, which we did take public comment, but the public will be allowed to comment on our voting day, which will be Thursday. So we invite folks to obviously call in and register. Register actually would be better, so we can queue you up to speak on the budget items that we will be finalizing on Thursday. Fingers crossed. So with that, Council, I think that concludes our budget hearings. We got some work to do, and we will come back on Thursday to finalize our budget.
Thank you for everyone for the overtime work in the last few weeks.
Thank you for being very patient, Henry, and everybody, the team.
Thank you, Henry, for finding the money ahead of time. I trust you.